Chapter 6:18. The artifact spirit's cultivation was very strong. In this way, the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet could kill enemies on its own without the master's control. Just thinking about it was terrifying. This was beyond the scope of a weapon. It was a living person. This was an exaggerated idea. In fact, they couldn't do this. The original owner of the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet built a large formation here, so that the artifact spirit could temporarily fly out to attack. It couldn't use the artifact itself to attack. This was too exaggerated. After all, without spiritual power to drive a divine artifact, it was no different from a piece of trash. In the end, if there wasn't a large formation constantly absorbing spiritual power for it, it would have disappeared long ago. It was no different from the phantom spirits outside. The biggest difference was that when the human and martial arts became one, its power would reach an astonishing level. After all, this divine artifact had a soul. Its power was much stronger than ordinary divine artifacts. Most of the spiritual power extracted by the 10 mountains was provided to the artifact spirit. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to suppress this place long ago. So there is indeed a demon sealed inside? Or should I say that there is an expert sealed inside? Etianyan narrowed his eyes. He wanted to know the situation inside, but he still had to ask carefully. Your strength is not bad. Plus, you can repair this divine rune. You should know the general situation. The artifact spirit's smile disappeared. You guessed right. It is indeed a demon sealed inside. It should be an extraterrestrial race that killed its way in from the outside world. At that time, it caused a massacre in the mortal world. In the end, it was suppressed by my master. He asked me to suppress it forever. Extraterrestrial race? Is it from the heavenly realm or the netherworld? Etianyan asked. No, it is neither. One day, it suddenly broke the space barrier and killed its way in. No one knows what happened. When this demon killed its way in, it crazily devoured life. Many people died at that time. If it wasn't for my master trying his best to seal it, it would have led to the destruction of the mortal world. After the mortal world is destroyed, I'm afraid it will be the turn of the heavenly realm or the netherworld. At this point, the artifact spirit's expression was solemn. It seemed that if it continued, even the 3 realms would be devoured. It is an extraterrestrial race. This is amazing. It seems that your master should be at the divine king level. Even this can't kill it? Etianyan frowned. As expected, his idea was correct. If he opened it without permission, he would be the one to die. Yes, my master is the heaven-creating divine king. The artifact spirit proudly read out his master's name and continued. Master is very strong, but the foreign demon is even stronger. However, because it was suppressed by its master, but it was very difficult to kill. This evil demon's bloodline is too strong, and its self-healing ability is also very strong. We can only choose to suppress it, but not kill it. It was not that this had never happened before. It was similar to the evil spirit race in the phoenix nest. They could not be killed no matter how hard they tried, and beheading them was useless. If it was useful, why would he suppress it? It was clear that this was a god-king level demon. If it was released, they would definitely die. It would definitely be a disaster. Heaven-creating divine king? Etianyan was surprised, but it was within his expectations. After all, divine kings weren't cabbages, and they weren't easy to find. Can this mortal world accommodate such strong cultivators? Etianyan was very surprised. He heard that the mortal world could only accommodate peak spirit king stage cultivators at most. If their cultivation was too strong, they would be suppressed or forced to go to the heaven realm or the ghost realm. But who knew that even Saint King stage cultivators would come out? Now even God King stage cultivators could roam freely in this mortal world? In fact, the mortal world has always been able to accommodate strong cultivators of any level. It was just that the master and the other god kings created the rules to force those with too high cultivation to go to the heaven realm or the ghost realm. Now that the rules have been loosened, it has spread a little bit. The master did this to make this place safer. Because the mortal world is a little fragile, and if there is a war, it will easily cause the space to become fragile, which will lead to the invasion of outsiders. So the masters who are stronger than peak Spirit King stage cultivators have to choose one of them. There is such a thing? Etienne's eyes sank. He had to admit that the God King stage cultivators were very powerful. Doesn't this mean that the God King stage cultivators are equivalent to the heavens? That's right. The outsiders broke through the void and entered during the great battle. I don't know much about the situation outside. The artifact spirit's knowledge was limited. It was sealed here a long time ago. It couldn't fight with the heaven-creating divine king, so it didn't know much. How many God Kings are there in the three realms? Etienne asked. How many God Kings are there? As far as I know, there are 3 God Kings. One is the Master, one is in the Ghost realm, and one is in the Heaven realm. The Master belongs to the mortal world. The artifact spirit explained. 3 God Kings. Etienne's eyes narrowed. Do you know where your master is? The 3 God Kings were nowhere to be seen. At least, the heaven-creating divine king was no longer in this world. He was still in the ghost realm. It turned out that the heaven-creating divine king's true home was in the mortal world. I don't know. I can't sense the master's existence. The artifact spirit's expression was gloomy. It was either too far away or dead. It's possible that the 3 God Kings are no longer here. Etienne's eyes narrowed. The rules created by the 3 God Kings had disappeared without a trace. It was very likely that it had something to do with the outsiders. I'm not sure about this. But one thing is very important. The demon I am suppressing is getting stronger and stronger. I can't suppress it anymore. The artifact spirit said. Even if you repair all the divine runes, you can't suppress this demon. How much time do I have left? Etienne didn't panic. He just wanted to know how long he had left. Because you have repaired many divine runes, if you repair all of them, you can last for at least 100 years. If not, you can last for about 60 years. The artifact spirit thought for a while and added. It will only be short, not long. It can last for 100 years. Etienne's eyes narrowed. He would have to deal with the God King by then. He had 2 choices now. One was to break through to the God King stage and wait for it to appear. The other was to unite the forces of the other 2 worlds to deal with this demon together. However, he didn't know anything about the situation of the other 2 worlds. If they belonged to the greedy race, it would be useless. If they all came to destroy the seal, it would be the end of him. Sometimes things were so disgusting. Greedy cultivators would disregard everything and take out the treasures first. When darkness fell, it would be too late. Most of the innocent people would suffer. Chapter 6:19. With a general understanding of the situation, Etienne finally knew the general situation, but there are still many things he is not clear about. In any case, he only needs to know one thing. Only 100 years is enough for them to prepare. The time will only be less, not more. And this is based on the situation where he repaired the divine rune. Even if he repaired it, the time won't be long. Because the suppressed demon is getting stronger and stronger, he really can't continue to suppress it for too long. At that time he will have to fight with the demon. Either he will unite everyone to fight it, or he will become stronger and fight it. Ding successfully accepted the super main quest, kill the demon from the heavens, become the savior. Reward: 100 billion EXP, 100 million crazy point, 50 million SBS, 5,000 prestige point, and get the title savior. Super main quest? Etienne was stunned. The sudden emergence of the quest is not unexpected, but there are multiple super main quests. This is very strange. Super main quest. Triggered the main quest in advance, temporarily unable to complete the main quest. When reading the note below, Etienne knew what was going on. Under normal circumstances, as long as he doesn't find this boulder, then after a few decades, the seal will be broken. At that time, the demon will come out of the seal, and the main quest will appear. He must kill this demon. He had to admit that the EXP was amazing, 100 billion EXP, 100 million crazy points. It was amazing. But correspondingly, this demon must be very terrifying. Otherwise, it is impossible to give so many rewards. The more ordinary the main quest, the lower the reward. This truth will not change. The more difficult the task, the more amazing the reward. Actually, there is one thing I didn't tell you. I am the inheritor of your master. Tianyan released a familiar aura. After sensing it, the tool spirit's face immediately changed. It really is the inheritor. The tool spirit is very familiar with this power. As soon as it was released, it immediately sensed it. It is very familiar. I got the inheritance in the heaven ascending divine altar. I don't know this. Tianyan asked. I'm not sure about that. The artifact spirit shook his head and said, but this aura is very familiar. You are indeed the inheritor. Is this what you call fate? Tianyan nodded. It was obvious that the ascending heaven divine altar was built after sealing the evil demons. Otherwise, the artifact spirit would definitely know about it. How could it not know about it? Then I'll repair this place. When the time comes, I'll have to communicate with the other forces, especially the descendants of the two divine kings. We must join forces to deal with it. Tianyan said in a low voice. It's best to contact their descendants. Back then, the three godly monarchs were unable to kill this fiendish demon completely. As time passed, it grew stronger. The artifact spirit sighed and said, if there aren't a few god kings working together to suppress it, this fiendish demon will definitely destroy everything. Even the three great godly kings can't deal with him. Tianyan's face darkened. This was truly terrifying. 1 against 3, he could only be suppressed but not killed. How strong was this fiendish demon? Don't be silly. Even if the heaven-creating divine king and the others come, they won't be able to deal with me this time. At this time, a sinister voice came from inside the rock. Fiendish demon, don't be presumptuous. The artifact spirit roared, and the whole rock bloomed with dazzling light, quickly suppressing the released power. The surrounding divine runes also lit up. You trash artifact spirit, at most you can suppress me for a period of time. When the time comes, see if I don't crush you. The fiendish demon snorted coldly. Brat, this time, the 3 realms is finished. You will definitely become my food. The taste is not bad. If I eat all of them, my cultivation will definitely improve. His voice became softer and softer, and finally, it was completely suppressed, no more sound. This fiendish demon killed its way in and devoured everything? Tianyan frowned. Devouring life to improve cultivation. This kind of cultivation method existed, not to mention this kind of race. For these fiendish demons, they were like elixirs for cultivation, the more the better. Just like the human race, eating dragon meat and phoenix meat. Weren't they also great tonics? The future depends on you. The artifact spirit sighed deeply. I just don't know if the 2 deity kings have told their descendants to prepare to deal with the fiendish demon? Tianyan shook his head. The flying divine kingdom built by the heaven-creating divine king was gone, leaving only the White Lotus Mansion. The White Lotus Mansion must also be built by the heaven-creating divine king. Otherwise there would be no such thing as ancestral teachings. Now only a few people knew about this matter. Who would have thought that darkness was about to descend? Forget it, I can only run errands. At worst, I can deal with it alone. Tianyan smiled. Although you have obtained the master's inheritance, your cultivation is still too low. You need the strength of other experts to suppress it. The artifact spirit shook his head and denied Tianyan's words. Tianyan smiled and did not refute. It was difficult for others to reach the deity king level, but he himself was not so sure. Let's repair the divine runes first, at least it can buy us some time. Tianyan felt that he had enough rest, so he continued to repair the divine runes. He could talk while repairing. Then he continued to repair the divine runes. One by one, the small divine runes were repaired. Most of them were slightly damaged, so it was not difficult to repair. Even so, it took a full week to repair all the divine runes. Finally, most of the divine runes were repaired, and the rest had nothing to do with him. The next time he came, it would either be someone trying to destroy this place, or it would be the time for the devil to break the seal. Of course, there was another good result, and that was when his cultivation was strong enough. It's almost done, I will reseal this place. Tianyan nodded. Inheritor, you can be considered as my half-master. The artifact spirit looked at him and said, I have some memories related to Master here. I can give them to you. I hope it will help you." After saying that, it stretched out its hand and flicked a light into Etienne's head. "Thank you." Etienne smiled. With these memories, he would be able to know the details of the two worlds, which would make things much easier for him. When he turned around and was about to seal the secret room, Yu Shiqian hurriedly stood up and said respectfully, "Great Emperor, you have come out. The Heavenly Demon Mansion's Lord has been waiting for you for a long time." Chapter 620. He had really forgotten about the demonic sky residence. Such a serious matter was right in front of him. Compared to it, these things were really insignificant. It should be said that it was originally a trivial matter that was forgotten in a blink of an eye. Yu Shiqian was speechless. Only the great emperor could say something like that. The Heavenly Demon Mansion's Mansion Lord and the others had been waiting outside for a long time. They had been waiting for at least 2 weeks. Young Master Shi had been kneeling for 2 weeks without daring to get up. In fact, it was not a problem for young Master Shi at all. For ordinary people, their knees might be broken. Young Master Shi's talent was not bad. He was at the Spirit Core stage. Not to mention 2 weeks, he could even kneel for half a year. This was no different from meditation. There was no harm at all. At this level, one's body was very strong, so kneeling on the ground was not a problem. Therefore, Etienne was too lazy to pay attention to them. No matter how long he kneeled or how many times he kowtowed, it was useless. Even cutting off his arm was useless. With the Heavenly Demon Mansion's wealth, it was not a problem for them to get the pill to regrow his arm. We have collected the information a few days ago, but we did not dare to disturb you," Yu Shiqian said respectfully. Although the information had already been collected a long time ago, and the entire White Lotus Mansion had been mobilized to investigate, they didn't dare to go in and disturb him. As long as Etienne did not come out, they would not dare to go in and disturb him. Even if Etienne stayed in there for a year, they wouldn't dare to go in and disturb him. If Etienne was in seclusion or doing something else, it would be fatal if they interrupted him. Now that Etienne's status was too different from theirs, they had to be respectful to him to avoid the great emperor's anger. Being in the emperor's company was like being with a tiger. "Well, come with me. We can talk on the way." Etienne nodded. He was not surprised. If they couldn't even gather such information, then the White Lotus Mansion should just give up and pack up their things and get lost. If he didn't even have the ability to search for information, how could he become stronger? The general news is clear. Young Master Shi of the Heavenly Demonic Mansion is using your name to bully other small forces. We even found out that other small forces are using your name to suppress other forces. Yu Shiqian paid attention to Etienne's expression. She wanted to see if there was any change in his expression, but there was no change at all. "Okay, got it." Etienne nodded. This was not unexpected. Since there was one person who started it, it was very likely that others would do the same. Some forces in smaller cities could also use his name to deceive others. The mountains were high and the emperor was far away. Who would investigate this matter? Very soon they walked out. As soon as they walked out of the door, they saw a group of cultivators standing there. Among them, young Master Shi was still kneeling there, still in fear and trepidation. "Greetings, Your Majesty." One of the middle-aged men, young Master Shi, who bore a striking resemblance to him, hastily walked over and respectfully greeted him. He was Shi Wenkai, the Lord of the Heavenly Evil Prefecture. "Greetings, Your Majesty." All of them knelt down respectfully, not daring to show the slightest bit of disrespect. They had been waiting outside for a long time, almost a week. It was impossible for them not to have any complaints. However, they could only wait outside, not daring to leave. Especially Lord Shi, who immediately flew over with his men after finding out about the situation. This matter scared him out of his wits. He never thought that the great emperor, who had so many affairs to attend to every day, would come here. It was truly unexpected. He had been waiting outside, and his son was kneeling on the ground. He felt extremely humiliated. After all, the other party was the great emperor. He could only wait obediently. "Your Majesty, it's all because of my lack of discipline. I will punish this unfilial son now. I don't hope that your majesty will forgive him, but please don't blame our sect." Then, Lord Sher roared, took out a long sword, and fiercely slashed at young Master Sher. A white light flashed, and young Master Sher's legs were immediately cut off. A miserable shriek could be heard. He had mercilessly slashed at young Master Sher. On the side, Yu Shiqian's face turned pale. The other people of the White Lotus House were also shocked. He had mercilessly slashed at young Master Sher. As soon as he finished speaking, Lord Sher once again slashed at young Master Sher's hands. This meant that young Master Sher's limbs were already cut off. However, Yi Tianyan was still expressionless, as if he didn't feel anything at all. "Father, father, it's all your fault," young Master Sher screamed. Just as he was about to say something, Lord Sher's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and he fiercely slashed at young Master Sher. Just as he was about to stab young Master Sher's chest, a force froze him in place. "Did I ask you to do this?" Yi Tianyan said indifferently. "I need to ask clearly, why are you in such a hurry? Or should I say, why are you in such a hurry? I just want to punish this unfilial son." Lord Sher was sent flying back a few steps, and his heart was filled with fear. His cultivation could be said to be at the core transformation stage, almost at its peak, but he was sent flying by Yi Tianyan's aura. This kind of terrifying power he had never seen before. "Shut up." Yi Tianyan's eyes were cold, and Lord Sher immediately shut his mouth. Then he gently raised his hand, and young Master Sher floated up. Yi Tianyan made a few gestures, and immediately stopped the bleeding. "Look at me." Young Master Sher looked at him helplessly, and there was a bit of resentment and unwillingness in the depths of his eyes. Yi Tianyan's eyes flashed slightly, and young Master Sher's eyes immediately became blurred. This was the effect of Yi Tianyan's eye of charm. "Tell me in detail what you know." Yi Tianyan said indifferently. "I just want to use the majesty of the Heavenly Cloud's empire to bully other forces, and let me humiliate them. Not only that, but even my father did the same thing, especially when he dealt with the Rainforest Mansion. They were so scared that they immediately agreed to offer up their treasures. I saw that the effect was pretty good, so I decided to do it." Young Master Sher explained everything in detail. After these words came out, everyone's face changed, especially Mansion Lord Sher's face was ugly. He wanted to kill his son before because he was afraid that young Master Sher would say such words. Although young Master Sher was his son, he wasn't worried at all. This was just one of his sons, and if he died he would die. As long as it didn't harm his own forces, there would be no problem. Who knew that the thing that worried him the most would finally happen? Chapter 621. Great Emperor, listen to me. This is all nonsense. I didn't do such a thing. I didn't do such a thing. I didn't do such a thing. Mansion Lord Sher's back was drenched in cold sweat. He had heard about Yi Tianyan's situation. Yi Tianyan could easily destroy an empire, let alone a mansion like this. "Look at me," Yi Tianyan said coldly. When Mansion Lord Sher looked up at Yi Tianyan, he felt a light rush into his heart. Instantly, he felt like his body wasn't his own, and even his consciousness was a little hazy. "Is your son right?" Yi Tianyan said indifferently. "Yes, I did use the prestige of the Heavenly Cloud's empire to threaten other forces to gain more benefits. It's very easy to obtain, and I'm going to use it on Mulin Mansion next time." Yi Tianyan also told the story in full detail, which shocked the people around him, and they looked at Yi Tianyan with even more strange eyes. There was no doubt that Mansion Lord Sher was bewitched by Yi Tianyan. With this kind of ability, there was no doubt that it was useless to hide anything. Just a look could make you tell the truth. "What else do you have to say now?" Yi Tianyan said indifferently. After Manor Lord Sher regained control, he knelt down and begged for mercy. "Great Emperor, I won't dare to do it again. I only did it because I was possessed for a moment." "You're blinded by greed. Then you can go to hell." Yi Tianyan's palm condensed into a palm in the void and pressed down heavily. Bang! Mansion Lord Sher was directly smashed into a pile of meat. Yi Tianyan killed Mansion Lord Sher without mercy. "You still dare to quibble in the end? If I didn't discover it early, I'm afraid that all the forces would have been threatened by you. Tianyan said coldly. From now on, the Heavenly Demon Mansion will no longer exist. Anyone who dares to rebuild the Heavenly Demon Mansion will be against the Heavenly Clouds Empire. After a while, I will order people to take over the Heavenly Demon Mansion. If anyone resists, kill them on the spot. Tianyan raised his hand again, and young Master Shi was also slapped to death. Not a single one was spared. From the very beginning, he would not show any mercy. Since they dared to use his name to swindle others, it was impossible for him to let them off. The elders of the Evil Sky Mansion looked terrible, but they didn't dare to say anything. Their mansion master had been slapped to death, so wouldn't it be the same for them? I can't accept this. That's the manor head's business. It has nothing to do with us. In the end, an elder still stood up and chose to resist. Tianyan didn't even bother to look at him. He stretched out his hand and slapped down. With a bang, he was smashed into a meat patty again. Who else has any objections? Tianyan couldn't be bothered to explain too much. He just used such a simple and crude method to solve the problem. This time, everyone was silent, not daring to resist at all. I know you have grievances, but this is the price you have to pay. I don't believe that you elders don't know what the mansion master did. Not only did you not dissuade him, but you also followed him. I'm already giving you a chance by not killing you. Tianyan said lightly. If you don't accept it, you are welcome to come to the Heavenly Clouds Empire at any time, but you will die miserably. This time, you have gathered a lot of information. After we take over the Evil Sky Mansion, their territory and resources will belong to your White Lotus Mansion. Tianyan looked at Bai Yulian and said, Thank you, Great Emperor. Bai Yulian was very excited. The Evil Sky Mansion's resources were much more than the White Lotus Mansion's. Now that they had collected it, it could be said that it would greatly enhance their strength. How could she not be excited when she could get such a great reward just by running errands? By the way, help me record all the forces that use my name. When the time comes, I will eliminate them one by one. Daring to use my name to suppress other forces, they really have a lot of guts. Tianyan's eyes were cold to the extreme. If he didn't teach them a lesson, they wouldn't know that the Heavenly Clouds Empire's name was not something that could be used casually. Yes, Bai Yulian nodded heavily. She put down everything and did her best to complete this task. At that time, let everyone know that the name of Heavenly Clouds Empire is not something that can be used to bully other forces. Tianyan said coldly. If there is, then I will be the one to do it. The Great Emperor's aura immediately swept out and suppressed the surrounding area. Many people knelt down, and an irresistible feeling welled up in their hearts. Even if they didn't want to kneel down, they had to. After that, Tianyan returned to the secret room to repair it, ready to reseal the secret room. The divine runes here had been repaired, and it could basically be sealed again. Inheritor, I hope that the next time I see you, you will have stronger power. The artifact spirit looked at Tianyan with a smile, and immediately retracted into the rock. Tianyan nodded and resealed the secret room. At the same time, he engraved divine runes on the surface of the secret room. These were all communication divine runes. Once the secret room was destroyed, Tianyan would immediately notice it, and then he could quickly come over. For this reason, Tianyan also used the teleportation divine stone to set a coordinate here, so that he could instantly teleport to help. The teleportation divine stone could set 5 coordinates, but it didn't consume any teleportation divine stone, and it could be changed at any time. While he was sealing the secret room, the outside had completely exploded. After Tianyan's words spread, the Heavenly Clouds Empire's General Su Fei and others immediately led the army to take over the Heavenly Demon Mansion. At first, there was still some resistance, but it didn't make any sense. Now that the Heavenly Clouds Empire's power had increased by leaps and bounds, and they had a lot of powerhouses, they could easily destroy the Heavenly Demon Mansion. In addition to the Heavenly Demon Mansion, the other forces that used the Heavenly Clouds Empire's name were also destroyed. For a time, the entire mortal world was in turmoil again. The first time was when the World Dragon Empire was overthrown, and this time, it was when Tianyan announced the rules. The Heavenly Clouds Empire had its own rules and bottom line. The rules announced by the Heavenly Clouds Empire were very simple. Except for the Heavenly Clouds Empire itself, no one could use the Heavenly Clouds Empire's name, or else they would be destroyed. Now that the announcement was made, the forces that originally wanted to use the Heavenly Clouds Empire's name all dispelled the news. Some of the forces that had been suppressed realized that it wasn't the Heavenly Clouds Empire's doing. It turned out that someone used this to threaten others. Yi Tianyun's action won a lot of prestige and reputation for the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Previously, some small cities thought that the Heavenly Clouds Empire was a killing empire, and they even used their name to suppress other forces. Chapter 622. It's finally been resealed. Yi Tianyun looked at the spirit rune in front of him, and took a deep breath. Although he didn't get any treasures on this trip, at least he learned a lot of things. Moreover, he also gained a lot of proficiency and experience, which was good overall. The key thing was that he knew about the demons, otherwise when the time came, he would know that it was the most miserable thing. Without any preparation, he would have to face the most terrifying demon. Who could bear it? After the seal was resealed, he poured the soil back and filled it up. This process wasn't slow, and soon it was filled up. On the surface, there was no trace of excavation. There's no problem for the time being. Yi Tianyun's eyes became cold. Now the most worrying thing was the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom. Only the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom knew about this matter. And it was not ruled out that they would continue to send people over. The Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom knew about this matter, and it may have learned about it from the Flying Divine Kingdom. Although the Flying Divine Kingdom was gone, there must be some things left behind. There may be records of treasures in the mortal world, but in fact, it was used to suppress the demons. In any case, there was an artifact spirit below. Unless a Saint King stage powerhouse came in person, they would be easily killed. So far, Saint King stage powerhouses have not been able to come up. As for communicating with them, it would be difficult. If he said that there was a demon inside, would they believe it? Moreover, the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom originally had a grudge against him. Putting aside their hatred and joining forces to deal with the demons, this was something that Yi Tianyun would not agree to. A dog can't change its spots, this was the truth. If he cooperated with the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom, he might be stabbed in the back one day. Facing the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom, he only had one thought, and that was to destroy it. This is a forbidden area. Don't let any disciples approach here. Yi Tianyun said to Bai Yulian next to him. I will obey the Great Emperor's command. Bai Yulian said respectfully. If someone really breaks in and their cultivation is too strong, let them do as they please. You all quickly hide. Don't lose your life for this. Yi Tianyun said. Bai Yulian was startled. She thought that Yi Tianyun would say that he would resist to the death, but who knew that he would run away? However, she didn't ask any more questions. Instead, she replied, I will listen to the Great Emperor's orders. She was smart enough to know what to ask and what not to ask. Since Yi Tianyun didn't say anything, she wouldn't probe further. Yi Tianyun nodded. He didn't explain the situation to Bai Yulian because he had other thoughts. The fewer people who knew about this, the better. If someone broke in and found out that a Saint King stage artifact spirit was waiting for them, how would they feel? After saying a few words, Yi Tianyun was ready to leave. At this time Yu Shiqian, who was standing on the side, gathered her courage and said, Great Emperor, can I go with you to Heavenly Cloud's Empire? Looks like you've made your choice. Yi Tianyun smiled. Yu Shiqian's decision to join his faction is certainly a good one. Yes, the Great Emperor has let me know many things. I want to stand higher and go further. Yu Shiqian's eyes were full of hope and longing for a better future. No problem. Take this token to the Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital, and someone will take you there. Yi Tianyun waved his hand, and a token appeared in his hand. His divine sense was condensed in it, and it could be used to convey his words. Great Emperor, aren't you going back? Yu Shiqian was surprised. She thought that Yi Tianyun was going back, so she decided to follow him. I won't go back for the time being, I still have things to do. You can go by yourself. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. With your cultivation, Going to Heavenly Cloud's empire is not a problem. Yes, great emperor. Yu Shiqian said with a disappointed look in her eyes. Although Yi Tianyan liked her, he didn't want to send her back just for her. He had a lot of things to do now, so he couldn't stay here all the time. After that, Yi Tianyan left alone. Yu Shiqian looked at Yi Tianyan's back and murmured, I will work hard. Only with strength can I not be humiliated. The change in her heart was mainly due to the changes in the heavenly demon mansion. She was abandoned by the elders of the White Lotus Mansion. Facing a force stronger than her, all her struggles were futile. After careful consideration, she finally chose this path. After Yi Tianyan left, he didn't go to the ghost world, but to the passage to the heaven world. Through the memory given by the heavenly rock suppressing ancient tablet, he knew the general situation of the three realms. Although it wasn't very detailed, at least he knew the key places. If he could go to the heaven world through this passage, of course, he wouldn't mind going there. After flying for a while, Yi Tianyan soon reached the area where the passage to the heaven world was located. When they arrived at this area, they saw a wide river. Rather than calling it a river, it would be better to call it a sea. The endless sea appeared in front of him. The only difference was that in the center of the sea, there was a continuous rise of seawater. It looked like a long river surging up. The water didn't pour down from above, but from the surface of the sea. If he didn't look carefully, he would think that it flowed down from above. Who knew that the truth was that it was from here, as if it was being sucked up. When he looked up, he couldn't see the end at all. It went straight into the sky. This was the Heaven World God River. Through this place, he could successfully reach the heaven world. However, he couldn't go up casually. He had to swim up. Flying was useless. Once he got close, he would be suppressed. Without a certain level of strength and cultivation, he couldn't go up at all. Just like the passage to the ghost world, he had to go through a certain amount of training before he could successfully go up. Of course, it was very easy for those with strong cultivation. Those with low cultivation could only go up bit by bit. It looked like he would be pushed up by the water, but in fact if he couldn't control it, he would be bounced off and he would have to start all over again. It seems that the passage is temporarily closed. There was a mist in the surroundings. It looked very ordinary, but it was easy to get lost in it. The key was that the passage was closed. Even if he swam to the Heaven World God River, he wouldn't be able to reach the heaven world. This was a little limited. It was a little similar to the passage to the ghost world. At certain times, something would happen and it wouldn't be easy to go through. The Heaven World God River was much more difficult than the passage to the ghost world. Since the passage was closed, how could he go up? It seems that if I want to go up, I have to wait for a while. No wonder people came down before. They took advantage of the opening of the passage to come down. Yi Tianyan shook his head. The Heaven World God River opened once a year. It wasn't a long time and was quite flexible. Chapter 6:23. This is the Heavenly Realm Heavenly River. It's really spectacular. The Heavenly Realm Heavenly River looked quite spectacular from afar, but not many people knew about it, mainly because it was too far away, completely at the edge of the sky. It was too far away from the heavenly boundary continent, and it took Yi Tianyan more than a week to fly at his fastest speed. A week wasn't long, but with his speed it was quite far. If it was an ordinary cultivator, it would take at least a month to fly here. Therefore, it was normal that the heavenly boundary continent didn't know about the Heavenly Realm Heavenly River, but only a few could go up. Some wanted to go up, but they didn't have the strength. Now that the Heavenly Realm Heavenly River was temporarily closed, it wasn't impossible to swim up, but it was a little more difficult. Therefore, for others it was like closing time, and when the mist dissipated, it was the real time to swim up. Yi Tianyan didn't intend to swim up this time. His purpose here was the small village on the edge of the Heavenly Realm Heavenly River. This small village was built on the edge, and people made a living by fishing. From afar he could see several fishing boats floating there, and several fishing nets hanging on the side to dry. Although there was mist here, it was limited to the inside, and there was no mist outside. Therefore they could go out to fish at any time, but they couldn't go inside to fish for the time being. They could only wait for the mist to dissipate before they could go inside to fish. He narrowed his eyes, flew down quickly, put his hands behind his back, and walked inside leisurely. As soon as he walked in, he immediately attracted the attention of the villagers on the side. After looking at him, they trotted all the way over and said respectfully, "Young master, I wonder why you came to our small village. Is there any problem?" Tianyan glanced at the small village in front of him. There are not many people living in the village. There are at most 20 people in total, roughly a few families, not a lot. I passed by here, so I just wanted to look around. Tianyan smiled. Oh, then feel free to look around. The villagers didn't say much and let him walk around. There were only a few shabby houses, and there was nothing valuable, so they weren't afraid of burglars coming in. They were just asking casually. After all, a stranger was visiting, so they had to be more or less careful. He walked all the way in, and finally walked straight to the old man who was handling the fishing net by the shore. Before Tianyan could reach him, the old man stopped and smiled kindly at Tianyan. "What can I do for you, my friend? The Heavenly Realm's guardian of the Heavenly River is still here after so many years. It seems that he really lived up to the heaven-creating Divine King's trust." Tianyan smiled indifferently. The old man's expression changed slightly, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. However, the surprise disappeared in a flash, and he quickly recovered. He maintained his smile and said, "What Heavenly Realm deity river protector? I don't even know what young master is talking about. Don't you want to come in for a drink?" After saying that, Tianyan turned around and walked towards the house on the side. The old man was silent for a while, but in the end he chose to follow. After entering the house, a young boy immediately greeted him and looked at him curiously. "Hey grandpa, there's a guest?" Tianyan smiled and looked at the boy. He was about 17 or 18 years old, younger than himself. His cultivation was not simple. At such a young age he had reached the 8th level of Spirit Core stage. In the outside world, he was definitely a genius. He didn't expect that there would be such a genius in this small village. "Xiaoyao, help me fix the fishing net." The old man signaled his grandson to help with the fishing net. "Yes, grandpa." The boy looked curiously at Tianyan, but he didn't say much. He turned around and helped with the fishing net. Tianyan casually sat on the chair on the side and waved his hand. A pot of wine and 2 small wine glasses appeared in front of him. Good wine. The old man didn't drink it, but just the fragrance of the wine made him feel refreshed. He sat down and picked up the wine pot and filled his and Tianyan's glasses. He then took a sip and said with satisfaction, "This wine is very good. I haven't had such a good wine for a long time. With your identity and status, whatever delicacies you want in the world, you can get them at any time." Tianyan said with a smile, "I have always been willing to abide by the principle of not leaving this place, and silently guard the Heavenly Realm Divine River. Presumably, your whole family has been guarding the Heavenly Realm Divine River for a long time. This kind of sacrifice is really admirable." The old man didn't say anything and continued to drink his wine. After drinking a cup, he smiled and said, "I don't know what young master is talking about. What protectors? We are just a small family that fishes here for a living. We don't know anything else about protectors. Peak Spirit King stage, half-step Saint King stage, and you are telling me that you are just a small family? According to this level, I am afraid that you have already reached the power to build an empire." Tianyan said. A teenager has reached the Spirit Core stage, and the old man in front of him is even more terrifying. He has reached the Peak Spirit King stage, which can be said to be half-step Saint King stage. If he continues like this, there is a high chance that he will break through to the Saint King stage. Through the memory of the heavenly rock suppressing ancient tablet, whether it is the underworld passage or the Heavenly Realm Divine River, there are corresponding guardians. This is mainly to maintain the stability of the passage. If the passage between the two worlds becomes unstable, it will rely on the guardians to repair it. Or if someone wants to destroy the passage, they will stand up and resist these people. The passage between the two worlds was created by the 3 god kings themselves, so if there is no one to maintain it, it will inevitably collapse. Although it can last for a long time, there will always be a time when it collapses. No matter how strong a god king is, they still can't escape the erosion of time. The lifespan of a god king is not infinite, but no one knows whether they are dead or alive. But the guardian in front of him has been guarding this place for many generations, and his spirit is admirable. It seems that you came prepared. I don't know the identity of the young master, and why did you come here? The old man's aura instantly locked the whole village. No matter how Etianyan tried to escape, he can't escape from the palm of the old man's hand. All the exits have been blocked. As long as Etianyan moves, he will immediately be intercepted by the old man. The identity of the guardian must not be easily revealed, and it must be kept hidden. Don't be nervous. The heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet told me about your situation, understand? Etianyan said indifferently. The heavenly rock told you? The old man was shocked. You found the heavenly rock stone. Chapter 624. A murderous aura enveloped the entire room. Many villagers outside were still doing their own things calmly. What happened here had nothing to do with them, so they didn't feel much about it. Who would have thought that the old man next door turned out to be a super strong cultivator? In the entire village, there was only one family of cultivators, the rest were ordinary fishermen. Usually this place was so safe, to a large extent, because of the guardian's help, so that not a single demon beast could come here to kill. Even if there was a storm, it wouldn't blow over. With a half-step St. King stage powerhouse here, what could disturb them? What natural disasters, what storms for a super strong cultivator, could be destroyed with a single punch? In the face of such a terrifying murderous aura, Etianyan took a sip of wine and said indifferently, "Don't be so nervous. Do you think that the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet will casually give its memories to others?" This murderous aura was good, but it didn't mean anything to him. If the enemy had such a strong murderous aura towards him, he would have slapped them to death long ago. The old man was startled. After a moment, he quickly retracted his murderous aura and sat down again, but he still stared at him and asked, "Are you related to the master?" The old man quickly calmed down and knew what was going on. There were very few people who knew that they were guardians. Even in the Flying Divine Kingdom, very few people knew about their existence. The main reason was that they were in the mortal world, not in the underworld, so of course they didn't know much about it. "You guessed it, I am the inheritor of the heaven-creating Divine King." Etianyan stretched out his hand, and a familiar aura appeared in front of him, making the old man very excited. You are the young master." The old man was so excited that he immediately stood up from the chair, but when he was about to kneel down, a force lifted him up. "You don't need to salute, you have been working silently for so long. Even if the master came, he would admire you." Etianyan didn't let him kneel down. It was really touching that he was able to guard this place. If he was his subordinate, how could he not be touched after guarding this place for so long? The most precious thing was that no one knew how long the heaven-creating Divine King had left, but he was still able to carry out this matter. How could it not be admirable? If it were someone else, they would have run away long ago. However, since the heaven-creating Divine King allowed them to be guardians, he naturally had his own merits. No. My lord has given our family a new lease on life. I was enlightened once when I was young. Otherwise, I wouldn't have achieved so much. My father also obtained a lot of good fortune. If it weren't for you, my entire family would have died a long time ago." The old man sighed. Etianyan nodded. It was enough to tell how long the heaven-creating Divine King had been gone. The guardian in front of him was at least hundreds of years old. The maximum lifespan of a Spirit King stage cultivator was about 1,000 years. The maximum lifespan of a Saint King stage cultivator was about 3,000 to 4,000 years, and the maximum lifespan of a God King stage cultivator was estimated to be more than 10,000 years. However, there was still a limit to one's lifespan, and one could not truly live as long as heaven and earth. He then learned about their current situation from the old man. There were only 4 people in their family. His son and daughter-in-law had gone out, leaving only him and his grandson here. His son and daughter-in-law's cultivation was not low. Both were at Spirit King stage and Void Spirit stage. The whole family was quite amazing. With 2 Spirit King stage experts, it was enough to support a country. However, They became guardians here, and did not covet the power of the outside world. The heaven-creating divine king also taught them a lot of martial arts, so that they could have a strong cultivation. It was a waste to have good talent without good martial arts. The martial arts given by the heaven-creating divine king must be top-notch heaven-level martial arts, and the effect would certainly not be bad. This time, I came here mainly to talk about one thing, which is the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet. Yi Tianyun's smile disappeared, and was replaced by a serious expression. Is the seal about to be broken? Renda immediately voiced out his guess. He had already vaguely guessed a little. Yes, the seal is about to be broken. If I hadn't repaired the divine runes, it would have been broken in less than 50 years. Yi Tianyun said solemnly. I have repaired the divine runes before, so it can only last for less than 100 years. Less than 100 years. Renda's eyes turned cold. I can still hold on until then. If we really break out of the seal, I will definitely be the vanguard. Although he was old, his eyes were still filled with battle intent, not the slightest bit less than in the past. This is the first thing. The second thing is for you to come out of the mountain and guard my empire. Yi Tianyun said solemnly. This, young master, we have already vowed to be guardians for generations, and cannot leave this place at will. Renda showed a difficult expression. Yi Tianyun was not surprised and continued to explain. At present, the one who is interested in this treasure is a divine kingdom of the underworld. It happens that I have a grudge with them, and can resist them from looking for the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet. The problem is that my empire is relatively weak and difficult to resist. When the time comes, we may not be able to resist and break the seal. As guardians, to a large extent, you are not only protecting the passage, but also the safety of the mortal world, right? In that case, Renda was silent. The meaning was different. There was no problem with the passage for the time being, so there was no problem with choosing to go out and help. After all, their duty was to protect the mortal world, so resisting these invaders did not cause any conflict. Okay, since young master said so, let's go and guard it. Renda didn't think too much and chose to agree. May I know which empire young master belongs to? Yi Tianyun belonged to the young master, so they would still obey his orders. Have you heard of the Heavenly Clouds Empire? Yi Tianyun was very satisfied with the answer. Heavenly Clouds Empire. Young master is the Heavenly Clouds Empire's great emperor? Renda was shocked. The person in front of him was not much older than his grandson, but he turned out to be the great emperor, who overthrew the World Dragon Empire. There were too many rumors, all of which said that the Heavenly Clouds Empire's great emperor was very young. And of course, there were also rumors that he was an old monster. Renda looked at Yi Tianyun, who was so young, and he was the successor of the heaven-creating divine king. Yes, it seems that you have heard of me. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. The Heavenly Clouds Empire's foundation is indeed weak. When my son comes back, I will go and help. Renda said solemnly. Yi Tianyun smiled. This trip was finally not in vain. He came here to ask the guardian to take action, not to say a few words. The Heavenly Clouds Empire's foundation was too weak, and without the protection of a powerhouse, it was too difficult to survive. If he couldn't come back for a while, it would be troublesome. Chapter 625. After the discussion, Renda called his grandson back and introduced Yi Tianyun to him. This is the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, your future young master. Before Renda could finish his words, Ren Xiaoyao was so excited that he directly shouted. You are the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Ren Xiaoyao shouted. He looks too young. Just like the rumors, he looks young. Maybe he's the reincarnation of a strong man. I've heard about your deeds. You're really powerful. The World Dragon Empire was destroyed by you and 5 kings were all killed by you. It's so exciting to think about it. What Spirit King stage cultivator. What unreachable cultivation. But they all died under your blade. I admire you so much. I wanted to see you for a long time. I didn't expect you to be so young. He was so excited. Obviously, he really admired Yi Tianyun and regarded him as a role model. Xiaoyao, be careful. Renda snorted seriously. Ren Xiaoyao suppressed his excitement, but his eyes were full of expectation. There were a lot of things he wanted to say, but he was stopped by his grandfather. "Yes, Grandpa. Greetings, young master. Are you the descendant of heaven-creating Lord? It's amazing. I didn't expect you to have such a relationship. It's really fate." He began to get excited again, as if he hadn't talked to anyone for a long time. "Xiaoyao." Renda was angry, and his voice became louder. Ren Xiaoyao immediately became listless and didn't dare to continue speaking. "It's okay, you are a young man. I can understand," Yi Tianyun said with a smile. "But..." Renda shook his head helplessly. This was quite disrespectful. Obtaining the inheritance of heaven-creating divine king was equivalent to becoming the young master. Renda was the oldest, but he still had to be respectful. Now that he knew that Yi Tianyun was the heavenly cloud's great emperor, he was even more respectful. Only a powerful young master could be respected. Immediately, they talked for a while and settled the general matter. When Ren Xiaorao learned that they were going to the heavenly cloud's empire, he was so happy that he almost jumped up. It took them a long time to go out, especially to the big cities of the empire. Ren Xiaoyao had never been there. Thus, the word carefree really didn't suit him. It was really hard for him to stay here all the time. However, this was the mission of the protectors. They could only stay here for generations, and could not go anywhere else. Now that the young master had said that, the meaning was different. Yi Tianyun's words were equivalent to the heaven-creating divine king's words, and he could change the previous rules. Seeing that his grandson was so happy, Renda also showed a happy expression. How could he not want his relatives to go out and see the outside world? Thus he still allowed them to go out often. However, most of them still obediently stayed here, and chose to guard this place. They had been nurtured since childhood and cultivated the martial arts of the heaven-creating divine king, so they were very happy to stay here. After all, it was a glorious thing to work for the God King. What if the heaven-creating divine king came back? This was a huge problem. If they stayed here, they would be rewarded handsomely. If not, they would be in trouble. This was the reason why they had to stay here all the time. Now that Yi Tianyun spoke, Renda loosened up a little. Otherwise, he really wouldn't dare to leave at will. If the heaven-creating divine king came back one day, it would be fine if he didn't get angry. "I still have something to do. This is my token. Take it to the heavenly cloud's imperial capital, and someone will naturally take you there." Yi Tianyun condensed a token and handed it to them. "Yes, young master." Renda took the token respectfully. After explaining the matter, Yi Tianyun left and didn't continue to stay here. They could go there by themselves, and he wouldn't take them there. Moreover, they had to wait for his son to come back before they could go there. Immediately, he flew to the underworld passage to look for another protector. As long as he found 2 protectors and made them his imperial protectors, he wouldn't have to fear anything as long as the Saint King stage powerhouse didn't come in person. In this way, the mortal world would be completely at ease, and no one would dare to challenge the authority of the heavenly cloud's empire. After flying at a high speed, Yi Tianyun soon arrived at the underworld passage. When he came here again, the surroundings didn't change at all, and the environment was still as bad as before. There are still many people who want to go to the underworld. When Yi Tianyun came to the Netherworld River again, there were many cultivators who were cutting wood. Just like the first time he came here, they were cutting wood to make a boat. "Little brother, do you want to go to the underworld? We happen to be short of people here. I wonder if you want to come with us?" At this time, a handsome man came over with a smile and invited him to join. Another young man. He really doesn't know what's good for him. This is the Netherworld River, not the small river outside. Who cares? That kid is going to cheat people to join him again. I don't know how many people will become cannon fodder. The cultivators on the side shook their heads. Seeing that the newcomer was so young, they didn't want him to join at all. Only those with higher cultivation and look more mature would be allowed to join. "Little brother, I advise you to go back. The danger of the underworld passage isn't something you can imagine." At this time, an ordinary-looking woman in her 30s walked over and dissuaded him with a frown. "You bitch. If you don't want him, don't ruin my plans," the handsome man on the side said sternly. Luda, can't you do some good? I don't think there's anything good in going with you. Ding Qing's gaze turned cold, and she said in a low voice, one look and I can tell that his cultivation isn't very strong. Isn't going to the underworld with this cultivation? Isn't he courting death? He can do whatever he wants. Why do you care? Luda snorted coldly. I just don't like you. So what? Ding Qing rolled up her sleeves as if she wanted to fight with Luda. Luda frowned. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Tianyan said, there's no need. I won't join anyone. However, I find you quite pleasing to the eye. I can give you a ride. Yi Tianyan smiled. Ding Qing looked ordinary, but she was a good person and knew how to persuade people. Give us a ride? How? Ding Qing was stunned. The others were stunned as well. What did this mean? I'll send you to the underworld passage. I'm going there on the way, Yi Tianyan said calmly. As soon as he said that, everyone was silent. Luda pointed at him and laughed. Is this kid stupid? He thinks he's crossing a small river outside and can casually bring people over. What a joke. The others laughed as well. They looked at Yi Tianyan as if they were looking at a fool. Chapter 626. In the face of everyone's ridicule, Yi Tianyan didn't bother to pay attention to them. It was normal for them to have such thoughts. A young man in his 20s said that he would send people through the ghost world. Was this a joke? 9 out of 10 people definitely didn't believe him. If one of them believed him, then there was something wrong with his brain. Little brother, listen to big sister. If you want to go to the ghost world, you need to be stronger. Although the passage to the ghost world is a little better than before, it is still very dangerous. Ding Qing said very tactfully, like a caring big sister. The other cultivators who followed Ding Qing didn't think much of it, and even felt disgusted. For them, Yi Tianyan's appearance was a waste of time. The most important thing was that their leader had tried to persuade them out of the kindness of his heart. If it were them, they would be too lazy to pay attention. Now they just sat on the side and didn't bother to come over and say half a word. Yi Tianyan walked over and lifted his foot to kick the raft down, then jumped on it and said, come on up, there is no need to build a boat, one is enough. His actions made the others dumbfounded. He left just like that. He was really arrogant. Was he a newborn calf not afraid of a tiger? Ding Qing, this is what happens when you are too kind. This time you met a fool, right? Trying to show off in front of you? I didn't expect you to be so attractive. Luda said sarcastically. Get lost. Ding Qing scolded him and immediately went to the boat. This place is different from the outside. If there are too few people going, it will be very dangerous. There are a few people who are going with me. If you don't come up, I will leave. I don't have time to waste here. Yi Tianyan looked up with an indifferent expression. Ding Qing, kick this kid down and let him soak in the sticks. Otherwise he won't know what this place is. Luda sneered. Little brother, you are not responsible for yourself, and you are not responsible for us. Ding Qing was angry and expressed her dissatisfaction with Yi Tianyan's action. I am the great emperor of heavenly clouds. Is this identity enough to be responsible for you? Yi Tianyan said. After he said that, not only did he not receive any kowtowing, but someone immediately laughed. Haha, if you are the great emperor, then I am the supreme emperor. Luda was rolling on the ground with laughter. He didn't expect to meet a clown who made them all laugh. Little brother, you can't talk nonsense about this. If the people of Heavenly Cloud's empire know about this, you will be dead. Ding Qing's face changed. Yi Tianyan felt helpless. Why didn't anyone believe him when he announced his name? Since you're the retired emperor, why don't you roll down there and take a swim? Yi Tianyan's gaze turned cold. He extended his hand and slapped forward. Before Luda could react, he was sent flying by an invisible force and fell into the water. Ah! Luda screamed and quickly swam over. The poison was constantly invading his body, which was not a fun thing to do. Brat, I'm going to kill you. Kill me. Yi Tianyan stretched out his hand again and pressed Luda into the water. After a while, Luda got out of the water. This time, Luda drank a few mouthfuls of water. His face was already dark, and his heart was full of panic. I was wrong, let me go up, let me go up. At this time, everyone's face changed and they felt that it was unbelievable. Luda's cultivation wasn't high, but he was still a core transformation stage cultivator. Now that he was pressed into the water, he couldn't move at all. This meant that the cultivation of the young man in front of them was far higher than Luda. Are you going or not? Tianyan looked at them and said, if you don't go, I will go alone. Even if his cultivation wasn't weak, he couldn't fly there. The Divine King's rule wasn't that easy to break. Therefore, he could only take the boat there. Seeing that Ding Qing was a good person, he decided to take her with him. Go. Ding Qing quickly turned her head and said to her companions, what are you waiting for? Come down quickly. Oh, okay. They hurried down, and after seeing Tianyan's power, they thought that Tianyan was a madman, but now they felt that this kid was definitely not a madman. Is there anyone else? Tianyan said indifferently. No. Ding Qing found that her tone was a little weak, and she wasn't as strong as before. She vaguely believed that the young man in front of her might really be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Then let's go. Tianyan reached out his hand and slapped the surface of the water, and the whole ship turned into a sharp arrow, flying forward at a speed beyond imagination. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared in front of everyone, leaving only the sound of the boat paddling. What kind of speed is this? It's too scary. Is he really the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? It's really possible. I heard that the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor is very young. He looks like he's in his early 20s. Didn't we miss the opportunity to make friends? Damn it, Ding Qing ran into him. The group of people regretted their decision. As for Luda, who swam ashore, he was already poisoned. Whether he could survive or not depended on his own ability. However, no one dared to save him because this was the punishment of the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. If they saved him, wouldn't they be going against the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Tianyan didn't care about what they thought at all. He just helped Ding Qing and the others along the way. Their speed was dozens of times faster than the first time they came here. They didn't even need to row the boat. They relied entirely on Tianyan's power to swim forward. The dark water sharks in the water didn't dare to come close at all. Under such a terrifying aura, who would dare to come close? Ding Qing and the others didn't dare to say a word. They just sat on the boat and watched the surrounding environment constantly changing. Soon, they arrived at the shore, and when they were about to get off the boat, Tianyan suddenly said, "Don't move, just stand on the boat." Immediately he stretched out his hand, and the whole boat bounced up and finally landed on the ground, then continued to move forward. His speed was slightly slower, but he was still charging forward at an incredible speed. This scene shocked them all. The boat can still move on land? Of course, this was not a problem. As long as one's cultivation was strong enough, they could release their spiritual power and lift anything. He was doing this now. He easily lifted the boat, and continued to rush forward with them without needing to get off the boat. If someone was watching from the side, and found that a boat could still move on land, it would be really exaggerated. Especially when there were 5 people on the boat, it was even more exaggerated. Chapter 6:27. We're here. A voice exploded in their ears, waking them up from their trance. They looked up blankly, and found that there was a tall mountain in front of them. We're already here? They were all stunned. It didn't feel like a long time, but they already arrived? Before coming here, they were prepared to die, but they didn't expect that they would arrive in a blink of an eye, and they didn't feel anything at all. Climb up from here, and you can reach the peak. It's not difficult. Tianyan walked down from the ship. There were no cultivators here anymore. Ever since he absorbed the black clouds here, basically all the cultivators who came here could easily climb up, and the difficulty was greatly reduced. Unless they were too weak, they could still climb up. Are you really the great emperor of heavenly clouds? Ding Qing shouted at him. Uh-huh. Tianyan nodded and left after saying that. He just thought that Ding Qing was a good person, so he decided to bring her along. He didn't plan to go to the ghost world with them, and even if he went to the ghost world, he wouldn't go with them. With his current situation, Going to the ghost world would be a fierce battle, so it was impossible for him to bring others with him. Looking at the back of Yi Tianyun, Ding Qing wanted to say something, but she didn't. She could only watch his back gradually disappear in front of her eyes. Sister Ding, are we dreaming? He is the great emperor of heavenly clouds. I heard that he is very mysterious. I didn't expect to see him here in the heavenly clouds empire. Yes, fortunately, I didn't say anything rude before. Otherwise, I would be thrown into the netherworld river like Luda. It's so domineering. Who would have thought that he is a great emperor at such a young age? It seems that I have to be careful in the future. If I offend the son of a powerhouse, it will be extremely troublesome. They all calmed down and didn't dare to be so impetuous. They were very impetuous before, and some of them even thought highly of themselves. When they thought of Luda being thrown into the water, they couldn't help but tremble. It was a nightmare. Ding Qing nodded but didn't say anything. Such a person was not someone they could come into contact with. Up until now, she still did not know why she received such preferential treatment. Other people don't know, only Yi Tianyun knows. To him, it was quite rare for Ding Qing to have a kind heart in such an evil world. Yi Tianyun retraced his steps, but he did not return to the outermost area. Instead, he returned to the death fog. Right now, the death fog was already shrouded by many other fogs. He turned a blind eye to it and walked in. However, he did not walk out. Instead, he went around to another place and slowly walked up. Originally, there seemed to be no path, but he forcefully carved out a path. Soon after, what appeared in front of him was actually a huge mountain. He didn't take the wrong path. Instead, he climbed up with his bare hands. The demonic beasts on the side squeaked, but they didn't dare to pounce on him. They could sense how terrifying Yi Tianyun was. They all felt a sense of danger, so they didn't pounce on him. Soon, Yi Tianyun climbed to the top of the mountain. There was no death fog here. Instead, there was a hut. However, this hut was already dilapidated. Obviously, no one had lived here for a long time, causing it to collapse under the wind and rain. He walked over and gently pushed open the door. The inside was covered with dust. It was unknown how long it had been since anyone lived here. It seems that the guardian has left and didn't choose to guard here. Yi Tianyun frowned. According to the memory given by the Heavenly Rock Suppression Ancient Tablet, this should be where the guardian lived. Now that there was no one here, it meant that the person had left. As for where they went, it was not clear. The reason why the underworld passage had become so dangerous was largely because the guardian was gone, causing many of the divine runes here to not be maintained. As a result, as time passed, it would become so dangerous. If the guardian was still alive, it would mean that he had absolutely failed in his duty. According to the oath, he must always guard this place. He must absolutely not leave it at all and guard this place for generations to come. It seemed inhumane, but other than that, there were no other restrictions. As long as there was no problem here, the heaven-creating Divine King would not care where they went. He just had to manage the stability of the passage. Now that the passage was in such a mess, the traces of the transmission array above the nether gate seemed to have faded a little. If this continued, the passage would disappear. If the person died, it would not be considered a dereliction of duty. Yi Tianyun looked around and felt that they were not dead. It was obvious that before they left, this place was still very tidy, and there were no bones. It meant that they did not die of old age, and it seemed that there was more than one person living here. Immediately, he walked around the place to see if there were any clues. Finally, he saw a token on the table, engraved with the word, Heaven Essence. Heaven Essence? Could it be the Heaven Essence Empire? Yi Tianyun's eyes showed a little surprise. If this was the case, it was really a coincidence. Although he had obtained their memories, he did not know their names. He only knew where they were. After all, the Heavenly Rock Suppression Ancient Tablet was a weapon, not a person. He only knew the general content, but not the details. Now that he saw the word Heaven Essence, he immediately felt that it was a little interesting. If there was a connection with the Heaven Essence Empire, it meant that the Guardian was not willing to stay here, and went out to create an empire. With their strength, creating an empire was not a problem at all. Creating an empire was not important. The heaven-creating divine king would not interfere. The point was that the passage to the nether gate was about to be destroyed, and he did not come back to maintain it even once. If he often came to repair it, he believed that when the heaven-creating divine king returned, he would not interfere. But now he built an empire, immersed in power, and neglected his job. One must know that the heaven-creating divine king chose them to become guardians and protect the passage, but now he ran away. He believed that when the heaven-creating divine king returned, he would definitely be furious. Of course, no one knew whether the heaven-creating divine king was dead or alive. This heaven essence must have thought that the heaven-creating divine king would not come back, so he left here. Obviously, he was not like Renda, who was willing to stay in the small village as a guardian, but chose to establish an empire. It seems that I have to go to the Heaven Essence Empire. Chapter 628. Heaven Primordial Empire. Great Emperor, the Heavenly Clouds Empire is too arrogant. They have overshadowed our Heaven Primordial Empire. That's right. Although we have always been called the second place, we are never that easy to bully. Even the World Dragon Empire has to give us some face. What kind of heritage does the Heavenly Clouds Empire have? They only have a powerful Great Emperor. If the Great Emperor dies, the Heavenly Clouds Empire will definitely perish. Last time, the Great Emperor still had to wait outside. He's going too far and is extremely arrogant. In the court, the ministers were indignant. They felt that they were being suppressed by the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Now the whole mortal world was talking about the Heavenly Clouds Empire being the first place. If we didn't keep a low profile, the World Dragon Empire would have been suppressed by us. Now that the World Dragon Empire is gone, it's the Heavenly Clouds Empire's turn to suppress us. That's true, but the Heavenly Clouds Empire is really strong. He alone can suppress the entire World Dragon Empire. I suggest that we calm down. Bullshit. The Great Emperor was left outside for a few hours. I can't swallow this. But if we provoke the Heavenly Clouds Empire, You coward. Do you think our Heaven Primordial Empire is weak? Do you think the retired Emperor is weak? Our retired Emperor is much stronger than the World Dragon Empire. They quarreled one by one. They were originally arrogant ministers, but now they felt that a nouveau riche was stepping on their heads. All of them wanted to fight back or seek justice. They didn't want to be suppressed by the Heavenly Clouds Empire. It was too shameful for an old empire to lose to a new empire. Great Emperor, there is only one Heavenly Clouds Empire in the entire Heavenly Clouds Empire. If the retired Emperor takes action, he will definitely be able to crush the Heavenly Clouds Empire. At that time, not only will the Heavenly Clouds Empire belong to us, but the entire mortal world will also belong to us. The Imperial Preceptor said with a smirk. We didn't want to deal with the World Dragon Empire before, because we were worried that they have a trump card. Now that we have used all our trump cards, if we were not so cautious, the World Dragon Empire would have been suppressed by us. The Heavenly Clouds Empire was definitely not satisfied with being the second place, and they had long wanted to become the top empire in the mortal world. Now that the Heavenly Clouds Empire had taken the lead, how could they not feel indignant and angry? Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's eyes flickered, but he also didn't care much about the Heavenly Clouds Empire. A small empire overthrowing the World Dragon Empire, and yet it thinks it's invincible? Previously, when he was blocked outside, he felt extremely humiliated. If he wasn't worried that Tianyan had someone backing him up, he would have been furious. After careful investigation, it seemed that Tianyan was the only person in the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Apart from that, he didn't have any background. Whether it was the Heaven Realm or the Netherworld, there didn't seem to be any. Moreover, even if there was, could they come over? Silence. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor indicated for everyone to quieten down and said in a deep voice, I already understand everyone's thoughts. Actually, I've already told the retired Emperor about this matter, and he's willing to take action personally. Soon after, he raised his head to look at the sky, stood up, and respectfully said, Father, you should be in charge of this place. A moment later, a pillar of light shrouded down from the sky, and an old man appeared on the throne, calmly looking at everyone. His peaceful gaze made him look like a benevolent old man. Greetings, retired emperor. Many ministers knelt down and bowed respectfully to the retired emperor. Even the heaven primordial great emperor knelt down respectfully. Get up, the retired emperor said in a dignified tone. One by one, they got up and looked at him respectfully. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism. In their opinion, the retired emperor was the real god. I already know about your matter. I don't know where this kid came from, but his cultivation is indeed not weak. Since he was able to kill that old guy from the World Dragon Empire, it means that he is at least at the peak of the Spirit King stage, or even at the first layer of the Saint King stage. The retired emperor said indifferently, this level of strength is indeed very important in front of the other empires, and no one dares to provoke him. But in front of me, it's not worth mentioning. The retired emperor is unparalleled in the world. The retired emperor is invincible. The ministers were very excited. Many of them had seen the retired emperor in action, and the power he displayed was still fresh in their memory. I didn't deal with those old guys from the World Dragon Empire, because I wanted to break through in seclusion. I didn't expect that old guy to be killed just after I came out of seclusion. The retired emperor sneered and said, trash is trash. Cultivating some unorthodox methods will only lead to their own demise. No matter what, the #1 empire in the mortal world must belong to me. The retired emperor stood up, and the ministers knelt down again and shouted, the retired emperor is invincible. The retired emperor is invincible. The retired emperor's eyes were filled with fanaticism. It was a fanaticism for power and a desire for reputation. He liked the feeling of being high and mighty. He liked the feeling of being worshipped by a group of people. I will personally go to the Heavenly Clouds Empire and pay a visit to this great emperor. I want to see what he is capable of. Even if he is a dragon from the heavenly world or the ghost world, he will still have to bow down to me. The retired emperor sneered and said, I will let him know that I am the ruler of the mortal world, not anyone else. The retired emperor clenched his fist as if he was already standing at the peak of the mortal world, feeling the worship of everyone in the mortal world. I want to see how you will make me bow down to you. At this time, a figure slowly walked in from outside the door and looked at the retired emperor indifferently. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. The ministers and the heaven primordial great emperor exclaimed when they saw Yi Tianyin walking in. They didn't expect Yi Tianyin to come in person, which was beyond their expectations. This was their territory, and they didn't know how arrogant a great emperor must be to dare to come here alone. Yes, it's me, Yi Tianyin said indifferently. Don't you want to welcome me? But it seems that all of you are very unhappy with me, right? Presumptuous. The heaven primordial great emperor said angrily. You broke into the imperial palace without permission. This is a provocation to the heaven primordial empire. With the retired emperor behind him, he was naturally full of confidence. Chapter 629. Who the hell are you? Heaven primordial retired emperor looked at him in shock, and his killing intent immediately enveloped the entire hall. Many ministers were invaded by this killing intent, and they collapsed to the ground one after another, losing their combat effectiveness. These ministers' cultivation wasn't low. All of them were at least core transformation stage, but in the face of this killing intent, they were paralyzed. Even the void spirit stage powerhouses felt weak in their legs, and they felt like they could be killed in a second. Everyone was confused. Wasn't this Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Why would he ask who he was? Most of them didn't know the true identity of Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor, and everything was given by the Heaven-creating Divine King. If it weren't for the martial arts and medicinal pills given by the Heaven-creating Divine King, how could he break through to the Saint King stage? If it weren't for the rule power given by the Heaven-creating Divine King, how could he stay here without any pressure? As guardians, of course, they weren't limited by the power here. But now as time passed, the restrictions were getting weaker and weaker. Before, even peak Spirit King stage cultivators couldn't stay here for long. Now with his Saint King stage cultivation, he could stay here and even have a breakthrough, provided that he had better martial arts and more spirit herbs. Without resources, it was still difficult to break through. Heaven Primordial retired emperor was like this. As a guardian, he didn't do his job well, but instead he established a sect. Not only did he establish a sect, but he also didn't go back to repair the Ghost World passage. On the other hand, they were planning to become the #1 empire and ascend to the position of the strongest empire, throwing all the responsibilities of protection to the back of their minds. If it weren't for the heaven-creating divine king, Heaven Primordial retired emperor would still be an ordinary cultivator. However, after the heaven-creating divine king left, he immediately abandoned his position as a guardian. If the heaven-creating divine king came back, he would be furious. In the face of this killing intent, Tianyan still maintained a faint smile as if nothing happened. Who am I? Is it important? You have forgotten your duty, and the Ghost World passage is about to be destroyed. You, on the other hand, are building an empire here? If the passageway collapses, can you bear the responsibility? You have betrayed the trust of the heaven-creating divine king. Tianyan snorted coldly. After the collapse of the passageway, it meant that there was no more passageway to the netherworld. The mortal realm, which was originally lacking in resources, became more and more crowded as the number of experts increased. In the past, cultivators had been forced to go there, but now they could only stay here. However, with the heavenly realm, it could still be maintained for a while. To a large extent, this was due to the fact that the passageway to the netherworld was not repaired, causing the balance to be greatly reduced. The many godly monarchs did not do so without their own reasons. The heavenly realm and the netherworld were much stronger than the mortal realm, and their places were much more spacious. They were definitely a few times, or even a dozen times more spacious than the mortal realm. I'm asking you who you are and how you know so many things. The retired emperor of the heaven primordial realm walked down step by step and looked at him coldly. All the escape routes had already been blocked. The power of the Saint King Stage 2nd layer was completely released, and the violent combat power was astonishing. Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor. Saint King Stage 2nd layer cultivation, has a divine wood body, has a vast vitality condensed in his body, has a strong healing ability. The martial arts he was good at included the divine woods only, the divine wood art, and the 10,000 woods return to origin. Weakness. Fire element attacks. Comprehensive combat power. 2. 8 billion in the state of anger. Kill, just anger alone, without using any other martial art power. The combat power is as high as 2. 8 billion. No wonder they didn't put the World Dragon Empire in their eyes. The great ancestor of the World Dragon Empire was really a piece of trash. Who am I? Tianyun stretched out his hand, and the power of the heaven-creating divine king emerged in his hand. I am the successor of the heaven-creating divine king, and according to this, you have to call me young master. The successor of the heaven-creating divine king. After hearing Tianyun's words, the retired emperor of the heaven primordial realm didn't show any respect. Instead, he looked up to the sky and laughed. No wonder you are so powerful. It turns out that you are the successor of the Lord. The heaven primordial great emperor, who was behind him, was stunned. He was the son of the retired emperor of the heaven primordial realm. He didn't expect that Tianyun was the successor of the legendary god king. No wonder the heavenly cloud's great emperor was so powerful. No wonder, no wonder. The heaven primordial great emperor didn't show any respect at all. Instead, there was a hint of greed in his eyes. It means that the Tianyun in front of him is an invincible treasure. If he can capture Tianyun, he can get a lot of precious martial arts, and even a lot of treasures. But so what? The Lord is no longer here. I have waited for a long time, but the Lord still hasn't come back. Do I have to stay in that damn place for the rest of my life? The retired emperor sneered and said, It doesn't make sense. My heart is not there at all. My dream is to become a real emperor and be worshipped by thousands of people. I don't want to stay in that cold place, waiting for death. What you said makes sense, but who can stop you from becoming an emperor? Can't you repair the underworld passage on the way to becoming an emperor? Tianyun shook his head. Don't make excuses for yourself. You didn't mean to do it, you did it on purpose. You want to close the underworld passage and affect the situation in the mortal world. At that time, whether it is the heaven world or the underworld, no one can come. If the underworld passage was closed, then the passage from the underworld would also automatically close. The two places were different, but they were connected. If the underworld passage was closed, then only the heaven world passage was left. At first, it was estimated that it could be maintained, but over time it would collapse, because energy seeped out of the passage and poured into the mortal world. If the underworld passage was closed, the balance would be broken, and over time, the heaven world passage would collapse. The Divine King created the passage, in addition to letting people from the two worlds come and go, more to guide other forces in. If the passage was closed, no one could come up, unless someone broke through to the Divine King level and opened the passage. When there was no strong expert coming up, the retired emperor was the strongest existence in the mortal world, dominating everything here. If he went to the underworld or heaven world, he could only be regarded as a mediocre cultivation. Even the imperial preceptor of the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom would not be able to deal with him. In order to achieve his dream of becoming an emperor, he did not hesitate to break all the rules left by the divine king. It was really abominable. So what if I do so? I already said that even if you are a dragon in this territory, you still have to bow down to me. The retired emperor sneered and said, I am the guardian of this place and you are not. You are the guardian? Tianyan sneered. I feel that if it weren't for you, the demon sealed by the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet would not have been able to break the seal so quickly. 100 years is the longest time. Once the seal is broken, your dream of becoming an emperor is really fragile. At that time, who can you protect? It would be good if you can protect yourself. Chapter 630. The conversation between Tianyan and the retired emperor made everyone confused. What guardian? What heaven-creating divine king? They had never heard of any of these, and they were even more clueless about what kind of demon was behind them. They were not clear about it, but the retired emperor was very clear about it. Impossible, that demon can definitely be suppressed forever. Heaven primordial retired emperor's tone was full of disbelief. In his opinion, this was impossible. You have never cared much about it, so of course you don't know the situation in this regard. Some time ago, I just went to find the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet, and the seal has been damaged a lot. If I hadn't repaired it, the seal would not have been able to suppress it in less than 50 years. At that time, do you think that you are more powerful than the Divine King and can suppress the demon? Or do you want to sit and wait for death? If the passage is closed, it will be impossible for you to escape to the heaven realm or the underworld. For so many years you have been blinded by power, and now you have affected the entire pattern of the seal. This was not Tianyan's nonsense. The reason why the seal became weak was largely due to the weakening of the spiritual power. The passage to the underworld had been constantly transmitting spiritual power, and if it was not repaired for a long time, there would be a chaotic situation. This was the case now, but the heavenly realm spirit river was not affected at all. Under normal circumstances, it was not difficult to go up the heavenly realm spirit river, at least not as dangerous as the passage to the underworld. How could it be? The retired emperor was shocked. In fact, he believed it a little. Even the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet was mentioned, which meant that he had really seen it. Are you still stubborn? I will give you a chance to guard the passage to the underworld again. Then I will not pursue this matter. Tianyan said coldly. Although the retired emperor had done something excessive, it was really a bit of a waste to kill him. He was wrong in dereliction of duty, and if he were to guard it again, he could make up for it. What he said before was his dereliction of duty, causing the seal to become shorter, was true. But even if he had been guarding there, it would at most extend for a few decades or 100 years. In the end, he would still break through the seal. The seal was not invincible. The most important thing was that the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet was a dead object, not a living thing. The demons being suppressed were living creatures that could continuously grow stronger and eventually break the seal. Unless the cultivation of this fiendish demon was relatively low, it would be impossible for him to escape in this lifetime. However, it was at the level of a god king. Even with the combined efforts of many god kings, they were barely able to seal it. Under such conditions, it was impossible to suppress it forever. Enough, enough. Heaven Primordial retired emperor quickly calmed down and looked at Yi Tianyan with a ferocious expression. 100 years is enough for me to enjoy. What does it have to do with me when I escape to the heaven realm? If you want me to continue guarding that damned place, I can only say it's impossible. Step by step, he walked down and stared coldly at Yi Tianyan. The successor of the great divine king? I didn't expect you to personally deliver such a great gift to me when I came out of seclusion. I'll give you a choice. Hand over all the inheritance, and I'll let you die a quick death. Yi Tianyan didn't expect that after saying all these things, Heaven Primordial retired emperor not only didn't repent, but also wanted to kill him and force him to hand over all the inheritance. Yi Tianyan didn't know why the heaven-creating divine king chose him as a guardian. It seems that the heaven-creating divine king also made a mistake. It can only be said that people will always change. Heaven Primordial retired emperor didn't have the same sense of responsibility as Renda. Although the other ministers didn't know what was going on, they all showed an excited expression when they knew that the retired emperor was going to make a move. This meant that the heavenly cloud's great emperor was dead, and the first empire would be theirs. It seems that you are still stubborn. Then, I will replace the heaven-creating divine king to eliminate this evil creature. Yi Tianyan said coldly. Eliminate me? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Do you think you are strong just because you killed that old guy? So what if you obtain the inheritance of the heaven-creating divine king? You are still too young. Heaven Primordial retired emperor sneered and said, I told you, even if you are a dragon, you have to stay in my territory. He gently clenched his fist, and the ground began to shake as if the entire mortal world was trembling. Immediately afterward, all the spiritual power around him was sucked away by him. If one looked closely, they would find that the ground was covered with divine runes, and there was a steady stream of wood attribute power being released from his body. After being released, Heaven Primordial retired emperor quickly became younger, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a handsome man in his 30s. This wasn't a final struggle, but a powerful vitality was released to rejuvenate himself. This was the power of wood attribute, which allowed him to live for a long time. Not only did he have the rare divine wood body, but he also cultivated martial arts that matched with his own attributes. With the two superimposed, his vitality reached a great extension. For example, the limit of the Saint King stage was 4,000 or 5,000 years old, but he could live more than 7,000 or 8,000 years old, or even longer. This was the effect of wood attribute, longevity. This was why he lived longer than Renda's father. Renda's father was already dead, but he was still alive. In an instant, the entire hall was covered with tree vines, and each tree vine exuded a green light, filling the hall with rich vitality. This was amazing power, and it felt like it could rejuvenate a person. Retired Emperor is invincible. Retired Emperor is invincible. One by one, the ministers shouted with fanaticism. This power was full of miracles, and only their retired emperor could display it. It was a kind of miraculous power. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, you put on airs before and made me wait outside for several hours. I gave you some face, but you still dare to be arrogant in front of me. I will make you wish you were dead. Hand over all your inheritance. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's previous elegance had long disappeared, and it was replaced by a fierce expression. Everyone thought that Yi Tianyan was dead. No matter how strong Yi Tianyan was, could he be stronger than the retired emperor? With the blessing of the Great Array, the retired emperor's combat power soared crazily from 2.7 billion to 4.3 billion in an instant. Since Yi Tianyan could kill the World Dragon Empire's old ancestor, it meant that he was not weak, so the retired emperor had to take him seriously. His first move was an absolute killing move, but it was not a fatal move. He did not want the inheritance to go to waste. Bind. Chapter 631. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor is controlled just like that. When the ministers saw Yi Tianyan tied up tightly, they couldn't help but be ecstatic. Some of them had seen the retired emperor use this trick before. Yi Tianyan couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried, and eventually, he was completely tied up with countless roots inserted into his body. Not to mention moving, after the root was implanted into his entire body was under control. He couldn't even commit suicide if he wanted to. In this case, he was completely controlled and became a puppet. At that time, they could do whatever they wanted, and the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor was just their prisoner. Just when they thought that they had captured Yi Tianyan, an extreme flame suddenly emerged from the tree vines. The dark flame seemed to have gone crazy, and it burned crazily along the tree vines. This flame, Heaven Primordial retired emperor's face changed, and he quickly cut off the tree vines that bound Yi Tianyan. The fire stopped burning, and it didn't continue to spread. The tree vines connected to him were burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. If he didn't cut them off in time, all the tree vines here would have been completely ignited. Following that, a pitch-black body appeared in front of everyone. Like an evil god standing in front of everyone. His pitch-black eyes stared coldly at the retired emperor of Heaven Primordial Dynasty, releasing a terrifying power from his body. The heretic god set was what made him fearless. With this peerless set, his combat power soared crazily, reaching as high as 7 billion combat power. Such a powerful combat power was naturally related to his breakthrough in cultivation. Just breaking through one level could increase his combat power by nearly 1 billion. This was the terrifying crazy mode of stacking his basic attributes, coupled with the astonishing performance brought about by the effects of the evil god set. Even saint rulers paled in comparison. Without such an effect, he really did not dare to challenge someone of a higher cultivation level. After all, he was facing a saint king. However, after putting on the evil god equipment set, he felt like a saint king. Divine Wood Body, a rare body. I think the heaven-creating Divine King took a liking to you, because you have a special Divine Wood Body. With the ability of longevity, you can be the strongest guardian to guard the underworld passage. I'm sorry you didn't. Yi Tianyan roughly knew why the heaven-creating Divine King chose him. The Divine Wood Body was the best choice. Who knew that the heaven-creating Divine King was not particularly popular, leading to such a result? What kind of treasure is this? Did the heaven-creating Divine King give it to you? Heaven Primordial retired emperor was shocked. For the time being, not to mention the domineering degree of these flames, the energy that was constantly being released was enough to make one's heart palpitate. This power was too shocking. It was as if a giant was standing in front of them, and they could only look up to it. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor, and the others were all shocked. They thought that they would be killed in one move, but now it seemed that nothing had happened at all. Instead, the sturdy tree vines were burned away. Although fire countered wood, it did not mean that it could burn any type of wood. In particular, the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial retired emperor's tree vines were definitely not something that ordinary flames could burn. In terms of quality, they were comparable to the hardness of sage tools. So, how could ordinary flames burn them? In fact, even weapons below the level of saint artifacts couldn't cut it. Weapons that were below the sacred artifact tier would probably be unable to harm the tree vines even if their own weapons were destroyed. Now with a flame burning over, it was easily burned to ashes. They had never seen such an amazing flame before. It could probably be called a sacred fire, right? According to its rank, it was indeed a sacred fire, the sacred fire of the phoenix nest. In the phoenix nest, it was regarded as a sacred fire, which was absolutely amazing. So what if it is, so what if it isn't? So far, is this question very important? Yi Tianyan looked at him coldly. Let me feel the power of a guardian, and I want to see how you can make me lie down. Boom. As soon as his voice fell, he quickly stepped on the ground and turned into a black light. The black stream of light formed a black ribbon in the air, swallowing up the surroundings. Some ministers who didn't have time to escape were actually caught in it. They didn't even have time to scream before they were sucked into this black ribbon. Then they were completely ignited and burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. This thing that looked like a black ribbon was actually a long flame. Under his rapid dash, It formed a huge vortex, sucking in the surrounding ministers. Those who were a little further away were fine, but those who were a little closer were sucked in and quickly burned to ashes. In the blink of an eye, nearly half of the ministers were completely burned to ashes, turning into a large wave of experience that flowed into the system. But this experience was too little for him. In less than half a breath, he had already raised his hand to grab the head of the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Emperor. His speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. Even the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Emperor couldn't clearly see his rushing figure. Yi Tianyun's current superposition speed was too fast, and with the superposition of special items such as the phoenix wings and various accessories, he instantly exploded at a terrifying speed. Even a holy king would have to admit defeat in the face of his terrifying speed. How could this be? Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor quickly reached out his hand to block Yi Tianyun's attack. Yi Tianyun didn't care about the palm of the retired emperor, as he grabbed the retired emperor's wrist and pressed him to the ground. Boom! Black flames rose to the sky and raged in all directions. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor didn't have time to escape, and he was blown away by the explosion. The black immortal fire burned his body madly, and the severe pain made him scream incessantly. He kept rolling on the ground, but it was useless. He made up his mind and chopped down on his burning thighs and arms. With a poochie sound, an arm and a leg were cut off, but no blood flowed out. Under his power, the wound was sealed, and not a single drop of blood flowed out. The severed limbs were quickly burned to ashes, and there was no residue left. The terrifying power was shocking. A dignified great emperor had become a cripple in an instant, and this was not a direct confrontation, but a mere brush. This showed how terrifying Yi Tianyun's power was, and everyone had greatly underestimated Yi Tianyun's power. When Yi Tianyun fought with the old ancestor of the World Dragon Empire, everyone saw that it was a difficult battle. And the most important thing was that no one could see the battle clearly, so the rumor said that he barely won. Now it seemed that the rumor was simply false. His real power was much stronger than everyone's estimation, and he was able to crush their old ancestor. Our Heaven Primordial Empire is finished. Chapter 632. Ah! Screams came from all around the hall. Some of the people who were touched by the flames quickly cut off their own bodies. Some of them burned their own heads, and were basically done for. This was just a little bit of flame, but the whole hall was enveloped in flames. No matter how they tried to put it out, it was useless. At most, they could only slow down the burning, but it was too difficult to put it out. This time many of the ministers died. Those who were able to escape were already heavily injured with broken arms and legs. The retired emperor won't lose, he won't lose. They still believed that the retired emperor wouldn't lose so quickly, and there was still a chance to fight back. In fact, whether there was a chance to fight back or not, the Heaven Primordial Empire's vitality had been greatly damaged, and many ministers had died. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the ministers were gone. How long would it take to hurt their vitality? If they didn't provoke Yi Tianyun, they wouldn't have any problems. Now they regretted it. Who would want to provoke this evildoer? Immediately, a green light soared into the sky, followed by a green light jumping out of the flames. It was the retired emperor. When everyone saw it, they wanted to cheer, but when they saw it clearly, they felt like a pair of big hands were strangling their necks, and they almost suffocated. The retired emperor's body was set on fire, and one of his arms was completely destroyed, turning into a pile of ashes. The rest of his body was not much better, and they were all set on fire, with big holes burning through them. Fortunately, he was able to resist the continued burning of the flames, unlike others who could only choose to amputate. On the other hand, Yi Tianyun was still covered with flames, and the air within 3 meters of him was ignited by the black flames. As long as it was within 3 meters of him, it would be ignited, and the terrible power made people tremble. The retired emperor, whom they respected the most, was crippled. He was suppressed, and he didn't even have a chance to resist. What a powerful flame! My divine wood body is suppressed. The retired emperor's face was ugly. He didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would have such a terrible flame. The flame just happened to suppress his power, and if it was any other attribute, he wouldn't be afraid at all. Only this flame was the most terrible, and it could easily set him on fire. Increasing the damage of an attribute is indeed powerful. Tianyan was very satisfied with the increase in damage. Under the restraint, the damage directly increased by a little more than half, which meant that it almost broke 10 billion. The damage bonus was just that overpowered. Who asked the opponent to be directly countered? Previously, he had wanted to have a good fight, but now there was still any suspense? What divine wood body? In his eyes, it was just a piece of firewood. A firewood that could be ignited with a single spark. What happened to your aura just now? Didn't you want me to sit still? Now let me sit here, I'll wait. Tianyan walked towards the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era, step by step, and didn't seem to be afraid of his power. Heaven Primordial retired emperor didn't reply. He shook his hand, and a steady stream of life energy flowed out of his body. In the blink of an eye, his severed arm, which had been burned to ashes, was restored. The power to regrow a severed arm was not rare to him. He did not need to borrow any power to regrow a severed arm. This was the power of the divine wood body. His body was like a tree trunk, and he could casually grow other branches and leaves without any pressure. However, it was useless even if it grew out. It could still be ignited. Divine wood art. 10,000 woods returned to origin. The retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era did not sit still and wait for death. His eyes released a bright green light, and he immediately pressed the ground fiercely. A green light surged wildly in the ground. In an instant, countless towering trees emerged from the ground. Each towering tree had incomparably sharp branches, and they all swept towards Tianyan. In an instant, the entire Heaven Primordial Empire shook, and even the entire continent shook. The surrounding spiritual power was constantly drawn over. From the outside, it looked like the power of heaven and earth was forcibly gathered by some kind of force in an instant, and then poured into this hall. What's going on? It's simply a miracle. The people outside the Heaven Primordial Imperial capital saw a steady stream of light spots coming over. They looked like fireflies in the night, but a little bit of starlight was so bright. Many cultivators felt that the spiritual power around them was quickly sucked out, making them unable to cultivate even if they wanted to. This kind of situation was extremely rare. Unless someone activated an extremely large spirit gathering array, the spiritual power would not be sucked out. Who activated a large spirit gathering array? Are we still allowed to cultivate? They came out of the cultivation room one after another. When they looked up and saw the specks of starlight, they were all shocked. From a distance, it looked like a miracle. Especially when they saw that it was the Imperial Palace in the Heaven Primordial Imperial capital, no one dared to complain. Only God knew what the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor and the others were doing. They were definitely doing something extraordinary. At the same time, the situation inside the hall looked very astonishing. There were large trees everywhere, and many of them broke through the hall and rushed out. But when these giant trees appeared, the flames began to burn wildly. Extinguish for me. The retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era roared, and the green light in his body was released to the extreme, wanting to extinguish the black flames. However, compared to the flames, he was more concerned about Tianyan, who was penetrated by countless trees, to see what the current situation was. Boom. Immediately, a black dragon rushed out from inside, and wherever it went, it was ruthlessly bitten off. If one looked carefully, they would find that several fire dragons were released by Tianyan, and they were wreaking havoc in all directions. One of the terrifying black dragon even bit from a distance, and directly bit down on the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era. It was too late for the retired emperor to dodge. How could he have thought that Tianyan could still release such a terrifying attack? Boom. Accompanied by a flame shockwave, the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era was instantly ignited, and he screamed miserably. Even though the green light in his body flickered wildly, constantly healing his body, he could not withstand this terrible burning flame. In the corner, the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor looked at Tianyan, and found that Tianyan had become even larger, and there were actually 2 horns on his head. He looked like an evil spirit that had crawled out of the abyss, filling the world with darkness. "Father, Imperial Father!" The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor cried out in fear. Seeing his Imperial Father shrouded in flames, he didn't know what to say, and his heart was already filled with fear. This was a battle between Saint King stage masters, and they could only watch from the sidelines. Even if they were to watch from the sidelines, they would still lose their lives. At this time, they discovered that the gap between them and Saint King stage masters was actually so big. Chapter 633. While the flames were burning, Yi Tianyan returned to his normal state of evil spirits. His whole body was covered with black armor. He didn't look as evil spirits, but he still looked majestic. He didn't go up and give the retired emperor a hard punch to end his life, because it was too easy to deal with him. Yi Tianyan didn't want to kill him in a hurry. He wanted to take it slow. Not only did he neglect his duty, but he also wanted to kill his successor. It was too easy to kill him like this. Huff! After a while, the retired emperor finally suppressed the erosion of the flames, but he was no different from a disabled person. There was not a single part of his body that was unharmed. This time he was burned more thoroughly than before. His arms and legs were burned. His body kept releasing life force to heal his body, but the speed of recovery was much slower than before. Although he could regrow his broken limbs, his injuries were too serious. The spiritual power needed to recover was extremely high. Under these conditions, it would take a little more time to recover. In the blink of an eye, the retired emperor they worshipped was half burned, and he didn't recover immediately. This made their morale plummet. "How is it? Does it feel good?" Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Don't be impulsive. I am willing to go back and be a guardian." He quickly reached out his hand to stop Yi Tianyan. He already knew the fear of Yi Tianyan. No matter what move he used, Yi Tianyan could crush him. "Do you think you still have a chance?" Yi Tianyan shook his head. He didn't want to give him any chance. Things were already decided. It didn't matter if he went back to be a guardian or not. The seal would be broken within 100 years. He originally wanted to let him go, but since he wanted to kill him, he couldn't let him go. Yi Tianyan had always been a vengeful person. He didn't say he was absolutely a good person, but he wouldn't be soft-hearted. As long as they were hostile to him, he would kill them. Even if the world was destroyed because of this, he would fight back. There was no reason, he just wanted to kill. Moreover, if he really killed him, the world would be destroyed because of this, then everything would be destroyed. As long as they provoked him, no matter who they were, they would die. "I, my Heaven Primordial Empire, will forever surrender to you, and I can swear to be your slave." He kept shouting, and his body quickly recovered. At the same time, he shouted to the ministers on the side. "What are you doing? Hurry up and kneel." The ministers on the side were terrified, and they crawled over in fear. They didn't dare to look at Yi Tianyan, and they didn't dare to retaliate. Their previous arrogance was completely extinguished, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. Now had no other choice but to surrender. We are willing to surrender and serve Heavenly Cloud's great emperor as our great emperor." All the ministers were terrified. They finally knew why the World Dragon Empire was destroyed. In the face of such a terrifying great emperor, who wouldn't dare to surrender? "I Tianyan, I Heaven, I Tianyan will, I Primordial Emperor. Tianyan, I and Primordial would kill, Emperor, who would and who I would." Yi Tianyan looked at them coldly, and the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor knelt on the ground. I apologize for my previous words. I shouldn't have said that." The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor spoke in a submissive tone. Or did he still look like a great emperor? He had long been scared out of his wits. I apologize for what I said before. I shouldn't have said that." The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor said in a low voice. A wise man submits to circumstances. Although it was a little humiliating, it was not shameful to submit to a peerless monarch. "Well, I accept your surrender," Yi Tianyan said indifferently. The ministers were overjoyed, and they looked up, only to see a horrible flame coming towards them. They didn't have time to react, and they were already enveloped by the flame. Accompanied by a scream, They quickly disappeared. They were all burned into a piece of charcoal, completely dead. Including the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor, they were all burned to death. We all surrendered to you. Why are you still so cruel? The Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor was furious. At this time, his broken arm had almost recovered. I don't think you are willing to surrender to me. You are just stalling for time, am I right? Tianyan smiled indifferently and said, just like how you don't want to be the guardian of the heaven-creating divine king, you always have the heart of an emperor. How can you be willing to surrender to others? The Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor didn't refute. Instead, he stepped on the ground. In an instant, countless petals closed from the ground, wrapping around Tianyan, layer after layer. Inside these petals, there was a glittering green liquid, which was a kind of venom. It was as if the venom had been condensed for a lifetime, and it enveloped Tianyan. Because it was too sudden, Tianyan was sealed inside it in an instant. Ha ha ha. Let's see if you can survive this time. This is the ancient corrosion poison. Even if you are at the Saint King stage, you will still be poisoned after absorbing it. The Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor laughed happily. Although his son was dead, as long as he was alive, it was enough for him. The others had nothing to do with him. As long as he was still alive, he could reproduce any descendants, and he could recruit any ministers of the empire. Moreover, when the time came, he would become the strongest empire, and the other forces could only surrender in front of him. I don't know how powerful it is, but I don't intend to test it. A ghostly voice came from behind, and the Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor turned his head in horror, only to find that Tianyan was behind him. You. Before he could finish his words, Tianyan reached out and grabbed his head, directly pressed him to the ground, and with a bang sound, the retired emperor was instantly ignited from head to toe, turning him into a flaming man. Do you have any last wishes? Tianyan said while releasing the flames crazily. This time, he wanted to kill the retired emperor completely, not let him speak a few more words. I really am willing to surrender this time. I am willing to be your slave for life. When the demons break the seal, I can be the first to fight. The retired emperor kept shouting loudly, begging Tianyan to let him go. It's too late. When you first refused me, you were already sentenced to death. Tianyan's voice was emotionless. For a traitor, there was no need to forgive, especially when he refused his proposal. Then you will die together with me. The Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor roared, and reached out to grab Tianyan's arm, releasing a terrifying force from his body, wanting to die together with him. Chapter 634. Tianyan easily crushed the retired emperor's head with just one palm. As long as his head is crushed, his soul will be destroyed. No matter how strong he is, he will die. Bing. Successfully killed the retired emperor. Reward: 8 billion EXP, 15,000 crazy point, 10,000 SPS, 5,000 divine rune proficiency. Obtained wood divine art, 10,000 woods returned to origin. Divine wood pearl rare, divine wood armor, high-grade sacred tool. Divine wood boots, high-grade sacred tool. Detailed divine rune map of the underworld passage. Ding. Successfully killed a guardian. Reward: 300 million EXP, 50,000 crazy point, 10,000 SPS, 1 super enhanced lottery roulette ticket. Ding. Successfully killed a guardian. Rewarded: 300 million EXP, 50,000 crazy point, 10,000 SPS, 1 super enhanced lottery roulette ticket. Mortal World Guardian. Unaffected by pressure, can travel back and forth in the passage at will, and can fly at will. Bing. Congratulations to player Tianyan for successfully breaking through to 3rd layer Spirit King stage. Bing. Congratulations to player Tianyan for successfully breaking through to 4th layer Spirit King stage. Tianyan's EXP exploded. It was mainly because he had used the 80x and 50x EXP cards that he had obtained when he opened the gift pack for level 61, and he had used them before. A Saint King stage powerhouse is very rare. Tianyan originally wanted to save it for later, but he decided to use it first. Sure enough, the 8 billion EXP was shocking. 146 times the express was crazy enough. It was an incomparably shocking amount of EXP. Even if he killed a minister, he would get a lot of EXP. This allowed him to break through 2 levels in one go. 3 billion experience points was a piece of cake for him with the help of the Wild Experience card. Tianyan was still not far away from 5th layer Spirit King stage. He only needed 1 billion EXP to successfully break through. This speed of leveling up is so cool. I almost broke through 3 levels. If only I could grit my teeth and be more ruthless. He originally wanted to buy more EXP cards to stack, but it was too expensive now. Tianyan used it too many times, and now it cost hundreds of thousands, or even millions of EXP cards. If it weren't for the fact that the 80 times experience card could not be stacked, he would have bought 2 cards and stacked them together. 2 80 times experience cards would be 160 times. After killing the Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor, it was equivalent to killing 160 Retired Emperors and 160 Saint King Stage Masters. How many Saint King Stage experts could he find in this mortal world? Even in the celestial world or the underworld. It was impossible for so many saint rulers to come and kill him, right? Therefore, he stacked an additional 50 times experience card, which was more than enough. If there were more Saint Kings, he would definitely go all out and buy a few more experience cards to stack up. He might even buy a 5 times experience card. It does look dangerous, but it's meaningless to me. Tianyan looked up at the rapidly withering petals. Poison flowed out from the petals and spread in all directions. Under the erosion of this poison, the hard ground was seriously corroded, and in a moment, it was like a poisonous swamp, showing how terrifying this poison was. Even a Saint King Stage Master would find it difficult to cure this poison. Perhaps this is the Heaven Primordial Emperor's strongest move. Tianyan frowned. Although he didn't think it was very dangerous at the time, for safety's sake, he directly teleported to the back of the retired emperor and attacked him. Because if he continued to play, his EXP card would run out. So he immediately teleported to the back of the retired emperor. Immediately, he began to clean up the mess and put away all the storage rings on their bodies, including the retired emperors. After checking, he found 2 divine tools inside. 2 divine tools. The capital is really good, but just 2 divine tools, not even willing to give them to his own son, really stingy. Tianyan shook his head. He didn't find a single divine tool in the storage ring of the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. From this, it could be seen that the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor treated him as his master. At least giving his son martial arts was good enough. The 2 life-saving divine tools were left with him, but they were killed by him before he could use them. In fact, it was meaningless to take them out, because both divine tools were suitable for the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. With his divine wood body as the main body, he could exert his full strength. Obviously, it was made by the heaven-creating divine king. But who knew that this guy was ungrateful and abandoned his identity as a guardian for his own selfish desires? In any case, all the treasures here were taken away by him. When he walked out of the hall, many guards outside looked at him blankly. It wasn't that they didn't want to go in, but the continuous release of energy forced them to retreat. Now that the energy had dissipated, the person who walked out of it was an unfamiliar face. Hey, who is he? He is the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. I saw him before, when I went to the Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital with the Great Emperor. How could it be? How could the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor appear here? Could it be that he was the one who fought just now? While they were guessing, Tianyan looked around and immediately said in a deep voice, because the Great Emperor of the Heaven Primordial Empire offended this emperor's dignity, he has been suppressed by this emperor. From today onwards, the Heaven Primordial Empire is under the control of the Heavenly Cloud's Empire, and anyone who resists will be killed without mercy. His voice spread throughout the entire Heaven Primordial Imperial capital, including more than a dozen miles away. What? The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor is dead. While everyone was shocked, they felt a terrifying emperor's might falling from the sky, forcing all the cultivators to kneel on the ground. From the depths of their hearts, an irresistible force gushed out, but most of them still worshipped at the feet of Tianyan. This wasn't because Yi Tianyan used any power, but because he equipped the title of, I am the Great Emperor. I am the Great Emperor. After equipping this title, those who are a great realm lower than me will easily choose to surrender. At the same time, commander points will increase by 1,000. This was a very amazing title, but he didn't equip it before. If he equipped it, he could just walk outside and say a few words casually. Now that he was at the Spirit King stage, basically everyone below the Void Spirit stage would choose to surrender. The lower the cultivation, the easier it was for them to surrender. This was the situation now. Those below the Void Spirit stage all chose to kneel. Only those at the Void Spirit stage could still resist, but they were still terrified. Chapter 635. What? The Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor attacked the Heaven Primordial Empire, and all the ministers and Great Emperors were suppressed? Even the retired Emperor of the Heaven Primordial Empire was suppressed. Isn't this power too strong? What exactly provoked the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor? Could it be that the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor doesn't like the Heaven Primordial Empire? Or does he want to dominate the entire mortal world? Hey, it's possible. No matter what, this is too overbearing. The World Dragon Empire was just overthrown. And now it's the turn of the Heaven Primordial Empire. The Netherworld Empire was also overthrown by the Heavenly Cloud's Empire, right? Isn't it too scary that the top 3 empires were overthrown? By the way, the Netherworld Empire isn't qualified to be ranked 3rd, right? It's just that the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor isn't qualified to be ranked 3rd. The news immediately spread around. Most people didn't know why Yi Tianyan did this, but it could only mean that Yi Tianyan's power was too strong. A single person overthrowing 2 empires shocked the mortal world once again. Many people thought that Yi Tianyan was too ambitious and wanted to conquer the entire mortal world and make all the empires surrender to him forever. This rumor made many empires panic, and they were already waiting for Yi Tianyan's arrival so that they could surrender one by one. In the face of such overbearing power, they had no other choice but to surrender. If they didn't surrender, only death awaited them. The World Dragon Empire and the Heaven Primordial Empire were examples of this. Therefore, all the empires were ready to be taken over by the Heavenly Cloud's empire, but no one came to take them. At this time, they started to doubt themselves. Was it because they were too weak? Compared to this, more people thought that Yi Tianyan was a tyrant, an absolute tyrant. As long as someone provoked him or displeased him, he would immediately suppress them. This time, many of the empires were obedient and didn't dare to resist. At most, they talked about it in private, but they didn't dare to say anything else. After hearing this news, Yi Tianyan was dumbfounded. How did he become a tyrant? If the Heaven Primordial Empire didn't kill him, how could he do this? However, he didn't explain too much. What they said had nothing to do with him. Now that he was in charge of the Heavenly Cloud Empire, everything was peaceful, and there were no problems at all. Since the Heaven Primordial Empire had been suppressed, a lot of people had to be sent out to receive them. It wasn't that there were too few of them, but that they needed to send some trustworthy people over. If they sent anyone over, who knew what would happen there? He didn't want to be called a tyrant. If the people he sent were all tyrannical or oppressive, how would he dare to send them? However, there was no need for him to worry about these things. Yi Qingxian and the others would be the ones to worry about it. He only needed to sit here, and that would be enough. Let's do a lucky draw. Yi Tianyan recalled the number of times he had obtained in the lottery, and immediately activated the lottery roulette to use this chance. With the support of the lucky aura, it spun rapidly and finally stopped at the accessory category. Accessory type? Yi Tianyan was delighted. He was currently in need of top-notch accessories in this area. Could it be that? With excitement, he opened the wooden box, and a ring appeared in front of him. Ancient ring. One of the 3 pieces of ancient set equipment, ancient level treasure. Wearing it increases strength by 10 times, 30% critical hit rate, double critical hit damage. Using 8,000 crazy point, the user can use ancient rampage, 100% critical hit rate and quadruple damage. Sure enough, it's the ancient set equipment. Yi Tianyan was excited. This means that he has 2 pieces of ancient set equipment. If he continues to get the 3rd piece, he will be able to collect a complete set of equipment. After collecting a complete set, there will definitely be a top-notch bonus. How can he not be excited? Just their effects alone were enough to excite him. It's much stronger than other accessories. As expected of an ancient-level treasure, it's even better than a Saint King stage treasure. Knock, knock, knock. At this time there was a knock on the door. Yi Tianyan adjusted his mood and looked up and said, "Come in." Immediately a beautiful figure walked in from the outside. It's Yi Qingxian. Yi Qingxian is as cold as always, only when she sees Yi Tianyan, she shows a faint smile. "Great Emperor, you called me?" Yi Qingxian smiled. "You have worked hard this time, you have to take over a new territory." Yi Tianyan shook his head and said, "How can it be hard? Because of the Great Emperor. Our forces are unprecedentedly glorious. Especially our spirit race is even more glorious than before. Many scattered spirit race members have now returned. Compared to the status of our spirit race before, we are even more dazzling now." Yi Qingshuan's beautiful eyes are full of excitement. She doesn't feel tired at all. She has always wanted spirit race to return to its peak. Now not only did they return to their peak, but they are also much stronger than before. Especially now that they are the leaders of spirit race, most of the things are managed by them. Their power is even more terrifying. It's not that they don't want to give Heavenly Jade Sect a chance, but those who are more capable have more power. But Heavenly Jade Sect has Yue and the others, so they also have a lot of power. "Great Emperor, you called us?" At this time, Yue and Jiulingyun appeared outside the door and walked in one by one. They are all women, but they are the pillars of Heavenly Cloud's empire. They manage a lot of things, and the power they have is even more amazing. Who would have thought that these weak women are the core figures who hold the power? But now, their cultivation is also not low, and they have all improved by leaps and bounds with the help of many medicinal pills and martial arts. Their cultivation is generally in the core transformation stage, and this speed is really amazing. Unfortunately, there is one person missing here, and that is Shuiyun, which makes his heart feel empty. "It's great to have you in Heavenly Cloud's empire," Yi Tianyan said when he saw them. They were startled, and their eyes turned red. Only they know the bitterness in their hearts. But they didn't say anything. Since they sit in this position, they have to bear all kinds of hardships and responsibilities. But after hearing Yi Tianyan's words, they felt that it was all worth it. They worked so hard, to a large extent, to respond to Yi Tianyan. If it weren't for him, they would probably be unknown, facing difficulties, or even dead. Chapter 636. Yi Tianyan looked at the women in front of him. How could he not know how hard they worked? No management was easy. No matter how much one indulged in power, it was still built on the basis of maturity. They fought countless battles along the way and experienced many life and death situations, but they still clenched their teeth and persevered. "What are you crying for? There's nothing to cry about." Yi Tianyan waved his hand gently and wiped away their tears. "The Heavenly Cloud's empire will depend on you in the future. If you're tired, put it down for now and take a good rest." "Great Emperor, you haven't rested. How can we dare to rest?" "Yes, we're not tired, we're far worse than the Great Emperor." They all smiled brightly. Compared to Yi Tianyan, they were still far behind. This wasn't a lie. Yi Tianyan had been fighting outside, and it was very likely that he would die outside. Compared to the safety of the Heavenly Cloud's empire, it was nothing. Yi Tianyan just smiled and didn't say anything. "This time, I asked you to come here mainly to talk about a few things. The first thing is relatively simple. I plan to leave the mortal world and go to the ghost world to deal with some things." Yi Tianyan's eyes turned cold. Although he didn't say it clearly, they all knew what he meant. Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom. If this trouble wasn't eliminated, it would cause a lot of trouble for Yi Tianyan, so it must be eliminated. Even if they couldn't be uprooted, at least they had to be suppressed. Everyone nodded and expressed their understanding. "The second thing is to go to the heaven world to find my aunt." Yi Tianyan's voice became heavy. After so many days, he finally had to go to the heaven world to find his aunt. He didn't know what force took Shuiyin away, but as long as it was in the heaven world he would be able to find it. Yes, we must bring Palace Lord Sher back. She's the one who paid the most. If you leave just like that, you will be letting her down. More importantly, you are being irresponsible to us. Yes, Palace Lord Sher's contribution is more than all of us combined. We're not talking nonsense, but she has always worked harder than anyone else. Compared to Sher Shuiyin, they felt inferior. Sher Shuiyin was the one who supported the Heavenly Clouds Empire in the early days. In the end, he chose to go to the heaven world for the sake of the Heavenly Clouds Empire. He wasn't sure if she had been threatened, but it was true that she had left because of Yi Tianyan, so he had to bring Sher Shuiyin back. How could Yi Tianyan not know this? He knew it a long time ago in Jade Palace. Sher Shuiyin was paving the way for him. Although he had done a lot, it was nothing compared to what Sher Shuiyin had done. Even though he was the one who fought for the empire, if there was no one to manage it, it would eventually collapse. Sher Shuiyin managed everything well, which was admirable. Of course I know that. Yi Tianyan's eyes flickered. He looked at them and smiled faintly. I will bring her back. Definitely. The third thing is relatively simple. Yi Tianyan waved his hand, and 3 divine tools appeared in front of him, all of which were the previous spoils of war. He looked up at them and said, "These 3 divine tools belong to you. Familiarize yourself with them, and don't use them unless it's a critical moment." Divine tool? They were shocked. This was a weapon that only the great emperor could use, but now it was their turn to use it. It was already quite amazing that they could use divine tools. Even Void Spirit stage powerhouses rarely had divine tools. Not only did they have divine tools, but they also had several of them. It was really shocking that they could get divine tools now. This is too precious. It should be left for the great emperor to protect himself. They nodded one by one. Although it was very precious, they felt that it was more important to give it to Yi Tianyan to protect himself. You are now the pillars of the empire, and these divine tools are under your management. It's more important to be responsible for you, Yi Tianyan said in a tone that he couldn't refuse. I told you to accept it, so you should accept it. Do you think I didn't leave anything behind? Okay, they could only reluctantly accept it, but they were still a little worried. I have arranged most of the things, and the rest is up to you. Yi Tianyan stood up and said, I believe that the Heavenly Clouds Empire will be more glorious in the future, not only in the mortal world, but also in the heaven world and even the ghost world. Their eyes lit up, and they were excited. Yi Tianyan not only wanted to develop in the mortal world, but also in the heaven world and the ghost world. Didn't this mean that he wanted to unify the 3 realms? After saying everything that needed to be said, they all went back to their rooms. Only Yi Qingxian didn't leave immediately. Great Emperor, I have something for you. Yi Qingxian thought for a moment, and took out a talisman and handed it to Yi Tianyan. Heaven and Earth God Rune. After seeing it, Yi Tianyan's eyes suddenly sank. What are you doing? How can you do such a thing? It's so harmful to your body. The power of Heaven and Earth God Rune was amazing, and only the spirit race could inscribe it. The only drawback was that it was too harmful to the body. Yi Qingxian gave it to Yi Tianyan before, and its power was indeed amazing, but it was too harmful to the body, so Yi Tianyan didn't let Yi Qingxian continue to inscribe it. I have the blood jade stone you gave me before, so I can replenish it in time. Yi Qingxian looked at Yi Tianyan with her beautiful eyes and said, I know it's dangerous for you outside, so this is the only thing I can do for you. After all, you are our king now, an indispensable king. Yi Tianyan stared at Yi Qingshuan's beautiful eyes and his heart trembled. If he collapsed, the Heavenly Clouds Empire would be finished, at least for now. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Yi Tianyan took the talisman and said with a smile, If I can, I won't use this Heaven and Earth God Rune. Yi Tianyan put the Divine Rune talisman into his inventory. This was an extremely powerful killer move, so he must save it for later. It better be so. Yi Qingxian smiled and left with a peace of mind. Looking at their backs, Yi Tianyan felt that he had a greater responsibility now. He was carrying the entire Heavenly Clouds Empire on his shoulders. It's time to go, Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom. Let me see how strong you are. Etienne's figure disappeared in place, and the next moment, he appeared outside and flew towards the Ghost World Passage at an extreme speed. Along the way, he flew at an extreme speed. When he entered the Ghost World Passage, the flying effect around him didn't work at all. Because of the Guardian's power, Etienne wasn't restricted at all, and he could fly at will. When Etienne passed through the Ghost River, the cultivators who were making wooden rafts were stunned when they saw someone flying past them. Am I hallucinating? Can someone fly here? It's really flying. Isn't flying forbidden here? Let me try. Bullshit, I can't fly at all. How did he do it? Chapter 637. Ghost World, Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom. What's going on? Why are the cultivators in the mortal world so strong? We sent so many experts, but we still can't overthrow a mere mortal world empire? Imperial Preceptor Ji Yang of Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom said angrily. Many ministers kneeling on the ground were trembling. They were worried that this slap would land on their faces. According to the news, this Heavenly Cloud's great emperor is very powerful, and his cultivation has reached the Saint King stage. All the empires that chose to cooperate with us were destroyed in the end. The minister who was kneeling on the ground said with a trembling voice. The imperial preceptor in front of him was someone who would kill anyone he didn't like. But no matter who you were, if he didn't like you, he would kill you. This was a relatively extreme situation. Under normal circumstances, the imperial preceptor would just slap them in the face and seriously injure them. Even so, no one wanted to be slapped in the face. There is a Saint King stage cultivator in the mortal world? Ji Yang's eyes narrowed. He was very clear about the situation in the mortal world. The restrictions there were strong, and the spiritual energy there was relatively thin. It was a bit incredible that there was a Saint King stage cultivator in the mortal world. Yes, according to the information we received. The minister reported. Trash. Ji Yang slapped the minister across the air, and with a paw sound, the minister was sent flying. His mouth was crooked, and he was on the verge of death. The minister kneeling on the side felt a chill in his heart. He didn't show any mercy. The most important thing was that the minister didn't do anything but collect information. He couldn't go up to investigate the matter, and he couldn't do anything. Drag him away and treat him well. Ji Yang looked coldly at the minister lying on the ground, then immediately turned his head to look at them and said, You are all trash. You can't even do a single thing properly, and you didn't even investigate the matter clearly. How can you do your job? The World Dragon Empire was supposed to be a puppet empire to help us, but who knew it would be destroyed? This matter must be investigated thoroughly. Didn't I tell you before? Please punish us, Imperial Preceptor. They could only bow their heads and admit their mistakes. In their hearts, they were very unconvinced because Ji Yang always said that they should suppress the Heavenly Clouds Empire as soon as possible. Now they were asked to investigate thoroughly. Didn't they want to investigate thoroughly before taking action? If it wasn't for Ji Yang telling them to hurry up, how would they dare to take their time? If they really slowed down the investigation, they would be slapped again. It was really difficult. All right, let's put this matter aside for the time being. In the mortal world, there are Saint King stage experts. It's really difficult to deal with them. Ji Yang said coldly. The passage is still at a stage where it is difficult to pass through. After a period of time, the power will weaken. At that time, I will personally go up and suppress the great emperor of the mortal world. His eyes were filled with killing intent. How could he not be angry when the capable general he sent was killed? Since it was a Saint King, he had no choice but to do it himself. Otherwise, no matter how many Spirit King stage cultivators he sent out, they would only be cannon fodder. Honorable Imperial Preceptor, you want to go there personally? They were all incomparably shocked. Why was he so attached to the mortal realm? They really didn't know the reason. If I don't go up, are you going up? Ji Yang looked at him coldly, causing the minister to tremble in fear. The minister immediately shut up, and didn't dare to say a word. But I don't have the energy for the time being. Let's focus on the phoenix nest first. Ji Young thought for a moment and looked at them. What's the situation at the Temple of Heaven? For the time being, there is still no way to conquer it. The divine runes are still unbreakable. One of the ministers said. The divine runes of the heaven creating Divine King are not that easy to break. Ji Yang's eyes turned cold as he looked at the minister on the side and said, Are the rest of the troops ready? Reporting to the Imperial Preceptor, the Phoenix Slaying Squad has been formed and is ready to go at any time. This official had been standing the entire time. He did not need to kneel like the other officials. Furthermore, his aura was completely different. He was like a sharp sword standing at the side, showing off his abilities. Very good. Ji Young could finally smile. Then let's kill our way to the phoenix nest and force those old farts out. When the time comes, we'll ruthlessly bleed them. After preparing for so many years, it's finally time to reap the harvest. When the time comes, we'll ask our ancestors to come out and coordinate with them from the inside. Even if the Phoenix clan's old ancestor crawls back to his feet, he'll still be dead. Yes. The minister on the side nodded heavily as a bloody light flashed in his eyes. He was ready to kill at any time. Finally, we can do something exciting. As long as we exterminate the Phoenix race, we can use their blood to cultivate a large number of experts, Ji Young said with a smile. I wonder how great General Mingshen's preparations are going? General Mingshen is ready to go at any time. The minister reported. Very good. Ji Young glanced at the ministers who were kneeling on the ground and said coldly, Go back and investigate the situation in the mortal world. Investigate everything inside and out. Yes, Imperial Preceptor. The ministers hurriedly got up and left. They didn't dare to stay here for a second longer. We can go to the phoenix nest now. Ji Yang's eyes flashed fiercely. He could smell the scent of blood. In the phoenix nest, the situation was the same as before. Everyone was cultivating and didn't feel any danger. Just when they thought that it would be the same today, they suddenly heard a loud bang from outside. The outermost spatial gate was blasted away. The guards outside were also blasted away. Everything happened too suddenly. The spatial gate was broken just like that. There's an enemy attack. The guard who was blasted away used the last bit of his strength to crush the leaf in his hand. Then, all the fire parasol trees in the phoenix nest started burning crazily, and instantly formed a huge array. In an instant, the inside of the phoenix nest turned into a huge flame cage. It even enveloped the spatial gate. The terrifying flame cage blocked everything. The Phoenix clan really has some foundation. The whole area of the fire parasol trees can form a defensive array. Interesting. At this time, Ji Young walked in from outside. He maintained a smile on his face as if everything had nothing to do with him. At the same time, Tianyan was constantly repairing the divine runes in the Netherworld passage. Suddenly, his eyebrows twitched as he felt that something was wrong. Strange, why do I feel that something is wrong? Tianyan didn't immediately enter the Netherworld. He was still repairing the divine runes here to prevent them from collapsing. Ding. Successfully accepted urgent quest Rescue Phoenix Clan. Reward, 500. 000. 000 EXP 10. 000 CPS 10. 000 SPS, 200 Phoenix Clan favorability. That you're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.